They thought I was gone. Pass out. But I've been watching. Every secret, every lie. She gave herself to him over and over while I disappeared from their world. Now I'm back. Not for forgiveness. No, that's too easy. I have the proof. Every betrayal carved into my soul. And now, it's time. Time for them to pay. They'll never see it coming. It's funny how sometimes the simplest answers can slip our minds. Jenny's idea for Anne to stay at my house while I went back to my flat was quite clear. The best place for Anne was with the children, who were at my house. Since I couldn't stay there, it made sense for me to return to my flat. We needed to figure out how to arrange visits. The kids could stay with me on weekends, but I wouldn't be able to have them all overnight at once. All of this ran through my head as I saw Jenny looking at me with concern. "You're right, Jenny," I finally said. "It makes sense. Anne will come back tomorrow with the kids' things, and we can talk then." "We can?" she asked quietly. "Some of us have jobs to do." "Oh," I said, feeling a bit guilty. "Can you handle things here while I get this sorted out?" She hugged me gently. "Of course. You need to take care of your family. Just remember there's a meeting in Austria next week for 2 days starting Tuesday." "Will you stay tonight?" "No," she said firmly. "I have work in the morning, and it's best if I head home now. Plus, you need to get the kids ready for school. We just have to be patient a little longer." I felt relieved. I wouldn't have to face my children's reactions just yet. Greta was fine, but the boys, especially Jan, would be more challenging. As Jenny said goodnight to the kids, she received a warm hug from Greta and a quick nod from Stefan. She made sure to say goodnight to Jan, and I watched as she left his room with a smile while Jan touched his cheek, looking pleased. 2 out of 3 isn't bad," I said as we walked down the stairs. "I think Stefan will open up once he sees how his siblings react to you." "Hope so," she said with a smile. "I'm looking forward to spending more time with you. Good night." As she left, I thought more about the situation. Having Anne move in seemed smart, but I started to wonder if I wanted to keep her away from Derek, even if I wasn't thinking about getting back together with her. Still, everything was happening too fast for me to think too much about it. The next morning, the children walked to school on Wednesday, May 5th. They seemed happy to be going, especially since there were no reporters around since the case had been paused. Stefan joined a group of kids heading to his primary school, while the older children were excited to meet their friends. This gave me some time to clean up the house. Anne arrived at 10:30. We put the children's things in their rooms and returned to the kitchen. Anne got ready to leave. "I'll be heading back to work," she said, gathering her bag and coat. "Are you sure you'll be okay?" I gave her a nod. "Of course you will," she smiled, taking a breath. "I've just gotten used to Derek. He's not very helpful. I can't leave the kids with him." "Anne," I said, "can you give me a few minutes before you go?" She paused, looking unsure. "Yes, what is it?" "Jenny had an idea last night." "Yes?" She sounded a bit doubtful. "You need a new place to live." "Yes, you know that." "Why not move back here? It's where the kids are. It has been your home for a long time. It can be again." Her face showed that I had touched a nerve. She looked surprised, then smiled slightly. "I'll move out, of course," I added. "I still have my flat in Stretford. It's big enough, and the kids can come over on weekends, as long as they don't all come at once." Her expression shifted. The smile faded. "Oh," she said. Another feeling crossed her face, but she quickly composed herself. "Alan," she said, "you can't do this. You bought the house. It's yours. I can't let you just leave it for a smaller place." "It's what I want and what you need, Anne," I replied. "The kids need you. You have the chance to all be together again in the house you love. Please do this for them. I'm sure you'll be happier here than in a rented place. And by the way, the flat is not small." She was quiet for a moment. Then her mood shifted, and the half-smile returned. "All right," she said a bit reluctantly. "But this is your real home, and you should come and go as you please. Don't stay away. You will visit the kids often, won't you?" Then, as if it were an afterthought, she added quietly, "And I'd like to see you too." "I have 2 favors to ask," I suggested. "Go ahead. Could you stay this weekend while I sort out the flat? It hasn't been lived in for a while, and it might need some airing out." She smiled. I'd love to. From Friday to Sunday? Sounds good. What's the second favor? I have to go to Salzburg next week, leaving Tuesday and coming back Thursday. Want me here again? Please. No problem. At this rate, I won't see Derek until I move out. She smiled wider. So, she said, I could actually move in permanently the weekend after next. I'll be glad to be free of Derek. I can't stand living in the same place anymore. This is turning out well. Good, I said, feeling relieved. I'll see if Jenny can help move my things on Saturday. Will you be here permanently from the following Saturday night? She nodded. And will you eat here in the evenings until you finally move in? You don't need to cook for Derek, do you? Not anymore. She had that determined look again. One more thing, I said carefully. Trish is going to New Zealand this Friday. She'll be staying over tomorrow night, so she's near the airport. Okay, said Anne cheerfully. Then she was off to work, and I decided to do the same. I had been putting it off for too long, one of the perks of owning this place, I suppose. I planned to take the afternoon off the next day to meet Trish and then help her get to the airport on Friday morning. I really needed to be there for her. The next day, Trish came to my office during lunchtime. I wanted to see Jenny and have a little talk with her, she said, in private. That was obvious to me. I raised my hands in a friendly way and left the office. I went to see Jeff, and we talked about the trip to Austria. Oh, Jeff said when we finished. Viv called. He chuckled. I should warn you that she's on a mission. She wants you to have dinner one evening this weekend. I'm sorry, Jeff, I replied. I need some time to relax and think after everything that's happened. He nodded knowingly. How about the Thursday you get back from Austria? I'm supposed to confirm it. I'd suggest checking with David to see if he knows about this plan. All right, let's plan for that Thursday. When I returned to my office, I found Trish and Jenny chatting and having fun. Are you done? I asked, a bit annoyed. Yes, Trish replied with a warm smile. Yes, Jenny added playfully. I realized I wouldn't be part of the secret, but my frustration faded as I saw my friends smiling at me. Trish and I went back to the house. When we got inside, Trish looked at me seriously. Jenny says your kids are living here with you, she said. I nodded. Alan, she continued, I don't want to cause any problems. They think you and Jenny are together. Can we spend some time together just for today? Then tonight I can sleep in another room. I want to remember this last day together. I agreed, and we quickly went upstairs. We shared a deep conversation about the past few years, recognizing how much we meant to each other. We knew that our special bond would always be there, even when we were apart. When the kids returned, they accepted Trish as my friend who was leaving for the airport the next day. Anne came over, and we all had dinner together. Afterward, the kids went off to play while the three of us talked about everything that had happened. Anne thanked Trish for her help at the pub, noting how much it had meant to her. After our chat, Anne said goodbye to Trish, giving her a warm hug. She checked on the kids and then looked at me with a bit of sadness, giving me a friendly kiss on the cheek before leaving. Once the boys were in bed, Trish and I relaxed on the sofa, listening to music. Greta eventually came downstairs saying she planned to study and go to bed, a playful smile on her face. The two women hugged and promised to stay in touch through email. Greta then asked if she could visit Trish sometime, and Trish happily agreed. As she left the room, she gave me a hug and playfully patted my back, showing her lively spirit. Trish and I wanted to keep things friendly for the evening, but half an hour later we found ourselves in my room, sharing a sweet moment together. Afterward, we lay quietly, letting our feelings for each other fill the space as we said our goodbyes for the night. The next morning was filled with the usual routine. The boys went off to school while Greta had a later start. Trish and I went to the airport where check-in was quick. After a few hurried hugs and some tears, she was on her way, and I felt a heavy sadness. Back at work, I didn't talk much to Jenny, who understood my mood and offered quiet support. As we got ready to leave, Jenny placed her hand on my arm and asked if I wanted her to come over to my flat for the weekend. I agreed, wanting to say more but struggling to find the right words. Her kindness meant a lot to me. That evening, I got home to find Anne had cooked dinner. The children seemed happier and more relaxed around her. I checked with Anne about her plans for the weekend, and she assured me that she would stay. She mentioned that she had already brought some of her things over to prepare for the next week. I felt relieved. I wanted to spend quality time with Jenny as I had missed her. I thought Anne might have sensed this. After dinner, I packed my car with some comfortable clothes, promised the children I would be back on Sunday night, and drove to the flat. It had a stale smell from being closed up for weeks. I opened the windows to let in a cool breeze and freshen the air. Just as I made the flat more inviting, Jenny arrived with a small bag. As soon as she walked in and closed the door, we shared a happy greeting. We embraced tightly, remembering how much we missed each other. We both felt a strong connection and soon found ourselves laughing on the floor. "Wow," she said with joy. "That felt so nice." "Any bumps?" I asked playfully, remembering the hard floor. "No," she chuckled. "Though I might feel it in the morning, but it was totally worth it. You can be quite the challenge." "Look who's talking," I replied, admiring her energy as she helped me up, my groans echoing in the flat. "Come on, old man," she teased. We walked into the living room where I poured us 2 glasses of pale ale. We sat on the sofa, enjoying our drinks and sharing lighthearted moments. "I really needed this," I sighed. "I've missed you." She snuggled closer under my arm. "And I missed you," she whispered. "It was tough being at work with you this week. I just wanted to be with you." "If I had known," I said with a smile, appreciating our bond. The weekend flew by, even though we didn't do much. On Friday evening, we went to bed early. We had a quiet moment together before falling asleep. Saturday was a relaxing day. We woke up late, enjoyed a calm breakfast after visiting the supermarket, and spent the afternoon reading while the rain fell outside. In the evening, we played games and watched TV, happy to be with each other. This cheerful atmosphere helped lift the feelings I had been carrying, and I felt grateful to have someone who cared for me. She seemed to enjoy herself more, and I felt a little left out. Eventually, I couldn't hold back my feelings any longer. "Please, Jenny," I said, feeling a bit desperate. She smiled at me, showing some understanding, and turned to connect with me in a way that made the moment special for both of us. Afterward, we relaxed together, only half listening to the TV in the background. At one point, she moved, and I felt the distance between us. With a playful grin, she said, "You know how to make a girl happy." "Only the happy ones," I replied, and we fell asleep, wrapped in each other's warmth. I later woke up to find my arm numb from her weight, so I gently shifted it, feeling the stillness around us. Once I was comfortable, I drifted off again. Sunday was another lazy day, a morning walk, lunch at a pub, and a quiet afternoon with newspapers, though Jenny was busy reading the articles. As I thought about recent events, my mind wandered to Anne. I remembered her smile, which seemed uncertain. What did it mean? Did she really think I would go back to her? We were divorced, and she knew I was with Jenny. Greta had mentioned that Anne had talked to Derek, which made me think there were still feelings there. It confused me that Anne didn't seem interested in reconnecting but believed Derek more than me. After 2.5 years apart, she should have had clearer feelings. Yet Greta was convinced Anne still cared for me and that her time with Derek was a mistake. But was it love, guilt, or something else? I must have sighed as Jenny noticed. "What's wrong?" That sounded heavy. "Nothing much. I'm just trying to make sense of Anne's actions, but they don't add up. I don't see it as a mystery. She probably thought you had moved on easily, leaving her to deal with everything alone, and that letter you wrote hurt her." It had not mentioned the children. "She is settling for Derek, and now you've come back into the picture, but she's only seen the old version of you. She holds on to anger because you decided to explain things when she already knows you made choices that hurt her deeply. It's clear that her frustration is about you returning after being gone for so long, rather than your absence itself. Don't forget I heard you when you tried to talk to her." Now she realizes she was confused. She sees the results of what happened and feels very sad. She sees the man she always cared about with others, feeling lost again. "But why didn't she look for me?" I asked, feeling upset. "That's something I just can't understand. Derek was there right away while she didn't really try to contact me at all. She let him do it. How can I believe she loves me when she always supports Derek? Her first reaction to Derek's trouble was to blame me. I think she feels sorry and maybe bad for me, but love? I don't think so." Okay, she said gently. "Go over there and see the kids. Spend time with Anne and see if that helps. A change of scenery might help you stop worrying about what you think she feels. You know that one day soon you'll have to see her and talk about everything, right? She was right. It was time for me to visit the house and spend some time with the kids before the weekend was over. Jenny went back to her flat to get ready for work the next day and make plans for our trip to Austria on Tuesday. At the house, Anne had made a salad dinner for us, and we all ate together before she sent me outside with the boys since it was a lovely evening. We played football and frisbee, and Greta joined us after finishing her studying. There was a lot of laughter and fun, though when the boys tackled me, Greta called out for them to be careful. Luckily, they were fine. I looked at the kitchen window where Anne was washing dishes, watching us. When she saw me, she turned away. I felt it was time to end our games. We went inside, and the boys rushed off to play in their rooms before bedtime, while Greta took one look at Anne and quietly went into the living room. I immediately understood why. Anne was upset. I wanted to ask her what was wrong, but something stopped me, so I went to the kettle to make some tea. After a moment, Anne spoke from behind me. "It was nice to see you playing with the kids. They need you so much, Alan. They miss you more than they'll ever say." "Well, I'm here for good now," I replied, focused on the teapot with my back to her. "I'll be around until they leave for their own lives. I want to make it up to them." I heard a quiet sob and Anne left the room. What had I said? I could hear muffled voices between Anne and Greta, with Greta seeming to comfort her. The girl had a lot on her shoulders, especially with exams starting on Tuesday. After about half an hour during which I made a pot of tea, I heard movements and Anne's voice upstairs. Then the front door closed. She had left without saying goodbye. What was wrong with her? Then Greta came into the kitchen. She sat down across from me, her eyes red from crying. "What's wrong, sweetie?" I asked. "A shame you didn't ask Mum the same question, Dad," she replied with some anger. "Didn't you see how sad she was?" "Sad?" I responded. "Why should she be sad? She's going to be here at home with you all. She knows I'm ready to help." "Oh, Dad, are you really not getting it?" I was about to say something when she continued. "Dad, she cares about you. She wants to be close again. She was watching us play outside and it was like old times except you weren't with her. You said you'd always be here for us, but you didn't include her. Dad, it's not her fault she was confused." "Did she say she wanted me back?" "Well, no," she hesitated, "but it's clear." "Greta," I replied softly, "I get what you're saying, but there are many issues between us that I can't share with you. I hardly know your mother anymore. I remember a lot about her. I do care." "You love her?" "I can't answer that easily. It's complicated. I want her to be happy as much as I can." "You're upset because she's with someone else." I stayed quiet, my face showing my discomfort. Greta looked uneasy. After a moment, I gathered my thoughts and spoke. "Sweetie, remember when you misunderstood my relationship with Trish and Jenny? You didn't know the full story and made assumptions. You're doing that again." "But let me finish," I interrupted. "Upset isn't the right word. Her being with someone else is part of it, but not in the way you think. It's a small part of the issues between us. I understand why she feels this way, but for reasons I won't explain, there's not much I can do right now. If it helps, there will come a time when your mother and I need to talk things over, but that's something just for us. We have a lot to figure out. Even if we work through those issues, there's Jenny to think about. I don't take relationships lightly. As long as she needs me, I'll be there for her. Your mother and I are separated." "I'm sorry if that makes Mum sad, but I didn't choose this. She did. I will do everything I can for her, but Jenny is important too. Do you see that?" She looked sad but nodded. "Yes, Dad, I understand. It's just so upsetting." "Yes, it is. We have to do our best, even when things are hard. We need to stay true to what we believe is right. I take promises very seriously." She nodded. "I didn't plan to be with Jenny," I continued. "Life led us here, but I will stay committed to her as long as we are together. I won't let her down." She wiped her eyes and came over to hug me. "Love you, Dad." "Love you too, sweetie. Try to focus on your exams even with everything happening between your mother and me. Things will improve." She went for more studying, knowing she had Monday at home for extra review. Although Anne said she would stay until Monday morning, she didn't come back. After getting the boys ready for school and settling them, I took a shower, said goodnight to Greta, and went to bed. It felt odd to share a bed with Anne 2 nights in a row, and maybe it was her perfume on the pillow that kept me awake. The events of the night replayed in my mind. Greta hinted that Anne's tears meant she had feelings for me, but Anne hadn't said anything clearly. Had our relationship been just about happy moments without deeper talks? We laughed together, but did we miss important conversations? I found Anne very appealing, and I felt there was more to our connection than simple friendship or working together as parents. There seemed to be something deeper, though I could not quite understand it. When I said we were a team with the kids, I wondered where that idea came from. I was unsure if anyone had ever told me that. People often said we were a couple in love and that Anne would rekindle her feelings for me once she learned the truth. Maybe they were right. So if I weren't with Jenny, would I reach out to Anne? Could we start anew? No. I realized there was still too much about our past I didn't understand, and she likely did. We were not on equal footing. She had an advantage. She could control what she shared, and I might not realize it until much later, if ever. It was hard to think about what could have been, especially with her preference for Derek and her thoughts about my innocence. In the end, it was all just a thought. I was with Jenny, and I held on to my strong values. I sometimes wonder where these values came from. They seemed to be part of me even when I lost my memory after the incident. Since then, I have thought deeply about them, yet they were always within me. One of these values is being loyal, keeping trust with others. Jenny and I shared a strong bond in many ways, and we worked and lived together closely. Eventually, my thoughts would circle back. I must have fallen asleep because the next morning I woke up feeling tired. The day was busy, and when I got home, Anne called with a bit of distance in her voice, telling me she wouldn't join us for dinner but would come for the kids after school on Tuesday as planned. She would stay until Thursday morning but wouldn't be there for dinner. She intended to move in permanently on Friday evening. After she ended the call, I stared at the phone, wondering what had changed now. I resisted calling her back and started preparing dinner. Later, I remembered Viv's invitation for Thursday and called her. She agreed to move it to Friday. The next morning, I sent the boys off with a kiss and a hug for Greta, picked up Jenny, and we were ready to head to Austria. 33. The trip went smoothly. The university wasn't in a hurry for us to finish our results or the prototype. We had a solid plan for when we completed our research and development of the processor. We finished all our discussions on Wednesday and managed to catch an early flight back on Thursday. Jenny called Jeff to let him know we were coming back sooner. After getting my car from the parking lot, we drove to the office. As we got close, Jenny asked to stop at a newsstand for a newspaper. She came back to the car with a big smile, and we continued on our way. When we turned the corner into the business park, I was surprised. The entire staff of our small company was lined up on both sides of the road, clapping and cheering. As we parked in front of the office and got out of the car, we saw Jeff smiling in the doorway next to Judy. A young secretary came over holding a large bouquet of flowers. "Welcome back to your company, Len Jones," she said with a laugh as she handed me the flowers and posed for a photo. I was a bit taken aback. The local press was there, along with David and Vivian, who had tears of happiness in her eyes. The staff gathered around calling for a speech. At first, I didn't know what to say, but then I found my voice. I thanked everyone for the warm welcome and talked about Len Jones, assuming they all knew by now. I told them that our team was amazing, and it felt great to be back with them. I ended by sharing that we were planning to expand the plant and hoped to increase bonuses because of it. They broke into loud applause and began to head back inside, all smiling. The reporter asked questions about the company and our success. Then, she asked about my earlier challenges and how long it took to recover, which were easy for me to answer. She finished with questions about the arrests, asking if I was pleased and if it was true my ex-wife was with one of the defendants. I kept my responses neutral on both points. We moved to Jeff's office for drinks. I chose orange juice since I was driving, while everyone else enjoyed champagne. "I didn't see any reason to keep it a secret," Jeff said. "Everyone knew about you anyway. The staff suggested we give you a warm welcome." That made me feel good. I noticed Vivian and Jenny deep in conversation, occasionally looking my way. I was busy talking to Jeff about the trip to Austria and his efforts to secure a nearby factory that had just become available. Then Vivian came over and confirmed that I would come for dinner the next day, after which I would need to head home in time for the children. Once I got home, I noticed that Anne had brought a lot of her things but hadn't put them away yet. At dinner, I told the kids that Anne would be moving in for good the next day, only to find out that they already knew. I also mentioned my plans to visit David and Vivian the next evening, but hoped to see them on Saturday. Greta said that Anne wanted to talk to me, and I nodded. Friday was busy. Single parents really need all the help they can get. I was already stressed after getting the kids ready for school, but despite her discomfort, Greta helped me out. I gave her a key and asked her to come home if the medicine didn't help her pain. Then there was the review of our trip and the planning for our research and development. I was also looking to buy the lease for the nearby factory, which would require a big investment to get set up once we acquired it. The problem was with the bank. They suddenly said they didn't have enough proof of my identity, and I had to speak strongly and mention possible legal action to convince them to release the funds when we needed them. It was all so stressful. In the middle of this, Greta called to say she needed a ride home from college because she felt unwell after her exam. I picked her up on my way to meet David to push the bank for the funds. After that, I had to call Anne to share the news, but she cut me off before I could finish, which left me feeling frustrated. What had I done to make things worse? Throughout all this, Jenny was a huge help, always reminding me of what I needed to do. The stress was affecting my memory, and she worked hard to keep me organized. The day ended late, and as we relaxed on the couch in our office, I remembered to ask if Viv had invited her for dinner. She did ask me if I wanted to come, Jenny said, looking calm, but it was clear she didn't really want me there, so I told her I was busy with laundry and preparing for the weekend. Oh dear, I sighed. Another night of praise for Anne and being pushed to get back with her. I'm starting to dread these evenings. Come on, she smiled. One of Anne's best qualities is her loyalty to you. You can't blame her for trying. Oh, I don't blame her, I said, not very convincingly. I just wish she'd give me some space. No chance of that, she laughed. That's the price you pay for her amazing cooking. Time to go. It was true. Her cooking was fantastic. We gathered our things and headed for the door. Both of us had our hands full, and it was Jenny who set her bag down to open the door. Then, unexpectedly, she leaned in and gave me a quick kiss. It surprised me, but it felt nice, and I smiled back. After we pulled apart, I looked at her, surprised. What was that for? I asked. We're at work. Rules are meant to be broken, she replied playfully. I was feeling grateful and noticed no one was around. I shrugged. No problem here. We headed home separately. That evening with David and Viv was nice. We didn't talk about Anne, but her presence was felt. I made light conversation, waiting for the topic to come up. After a few drinks, I relaxed when Viv finally spoke. Alan, don't you think Jenny is a bit young for you? I was surprised by her comment. Viv, I said, trying to stay calm, age isn't everything. She wants to be with me, and I'm happy. So she's just a passing interest, then? Viv, David jumped in. This isn't your place to say, and it's not fair to either of them. No, I'm just trying to help him see he should be with someone else, she replied. A silence fell as David looked uneasy while Viv seemed to expect a response. I felt a bit annoyed. Listen, Viv. What happens with Jenny is between us. You and David are good friends, which is why I'm addressing your comments, but I think you should think about how you approach this. Alan, she stuttered. I didn't mean... I know you didn't. You want to make it right as you see it. I don't see it your way. You're trying to push me towards Anne. I've told you about my issues with her. If it helps, I think Jenny and I will have a talk tomorrow. But surely what you've done for her, giving her back the house, shows you still care. I shook my head. No, Viv, it doesn't. She looked shocked, so I continued. I told you before, I don't have any feelings for her anymore. I can remember parts of our past, but I don't feel in love. I went on. I understand what everyone thinks, that I did care once, but even though I recall moments together, I don't believe we were always in love. I offered her the house for the kids. They did not like living with Derek, and I know she plans to leave him and needs a place with the children. It just made sense. I'm moving into my flat this weekend. Oh, she said, sounding somewhat flat. I thought, it would be best if you didn't, I added. As for Jenny, there's more to her than you realize. She needs me right now. Who knows? She might find someone else and then you can play matchmaker again. David and I both chuckled, and Viv looked a little embarrassed. By the way, I said, wanting to tease her, were you trying to keep Jenny from coming with me tonight? Not at all. I just wanted to know if she was coming so I could be prepared. Oh, yes, dear, David laughed. You were telling her you wanted a moment with Alan. Well, I might have, she admitted, turning red. Don't worry, I assured her. I know you really want what's best for me. You do know Anne still cares about you, right? Viv pressed, not ready to give up. I told you that as soon as she found out who you were, she'd still care for you. She went on. She feels awful for not looking for you harder. She let Derek handle it, and he took all the weight for her. It was tough for her. He was so helpful, David said, sounding cynical. He was the one who made Alan disappear. She didn't know that. Anyway, she still can't believe he would do something like that. Remember, she knows him very well. Viv paused, catching herself. Exactly, Viv, I said quickly. She still trusts him more than she trusts me. That's not a good start for us, is it? It makes me question how well they knew each other before I went missing. That's silly, Alan, she replied. She always loved you first. Again, she seemed to realize what she was saying. And he came second behind my back? Viv, when you're in a bad spot, it's best not to dig deeper, or do you know more than you're letting on? You don't actually think Anne was unfaithful, do you? She said, looking uncomfortable with where we were headed. I don't know what to think. I can't remember what happened before I disappeared. She told Derek I was going to York. I wondered when she spoke to him about that. She certainly wasn't with me. That felt unfair. Everyone at the factory knew I was heading to York, so whether Anne told Derek was beside the point. Still, it was kind of fun to make Viv uneasy. There was a shocked silence. I was trying to process what I had just said. Was there a hidden doubt in my mind? Now it had come out. Did I feel bad about my doubt? No, I just didn't know. But it was clear that Anne and Derek had met to talk. Oh, dear. David broke the silence. Alan, he said softly, I really doubt Anne and Derek were having an affair. Remember, she only started living with him after he faked that letter. Yes, but I think there was more than friendship between them before she moved in. I believe he was trying to get closer to her for a long time, and I have no idea how close they really were. That seemed to end the discussion. I got the sense that Viv felt guilty and wanted she hadn't brought it up, which made me feel a bit better. The conversation killed the mood for the evening, and I left soon after, worried about how my relationship with both of them had changed. As I walked home, I mulled over my comments. It troubled me to think that Anne and Derek had been discussing me before I left. I didn't know if I had been part of those talks. And Viv's silence. Did she know more than she was saying? She wouldn't tell David, who would have told me right away. When I reached my flat, my thoughts were interrupted. I called once I got home to hear that we'd had even tougher conversations before, and everything turned out fine. As I hung up the phone, the bathroom door opened, and Jenny came out. Sorry, Alan, she said, looking a bit uneasy. I'm going to visit my parents tomorrow and a friend's birthday party on Sunday, so I need you tonight. I smiled wide. I'm glad. I could use some support after a tough talk with Vivian. I wasn't thinking of support, she replied playfully, giving me a warm smile. No comment, I said, keeping the mood light. She joked with me, and I couldn't help but chuckle. I saw a rugby team on my way up the stairs, she said, adding some humor to the moment. What could I do? We shared a nice moment, letting any awkwardness fade away. Jenny left early on Saturday. I was about to head out when the phone rang. It was Colin. Alan, he said quietly, are you at home? I have something to tell you, but it's better in person. I'm at the flat, I replied, just about to leave. Can you wait a bit? Yes. He arrived not long after. Alan, he began, keep this to yourself until I can confirm that the defense knows about our findings. Okay. We looked through Derek's computer and his accounts. He withdrew £43,000 from his business account. It came out in smaller amounts over several weeks before your incident, sent to various accounts with common names like Smith and Brown, plus some companies that don't really exist. The money trail was not very clever, appearing like routine payments. 3 days after your incident, all the money was taken from those accounts. One of the people involved put £10,000 in cash into his savings account 4 days later, which was a big mistake. According to O'Malley's info, there's still an unaccounted £10,000, likely for the person who set everything in motion and then disappeared. So, everything points to Derek, right? What does that mean for us? Well, surprisingly, O'Malley has given a statement that matches much of what he told us before. We think one of the other individuals might cooperate too. This information suggests Derek is the main suspect. He will have to explain the missing money. If he can't give a good reason, it won't look good for him. How could he not know to whom he sent the money? I think he may change his story once he sees the evidence we have. His name is the only one connected to that business account. No one else could have moved that money. The timing and the made-up names are too suspicious. He's our main suspect. The reality of Derek's intentions became clear. He had tried to distance himself from this whole situation. Then he moved in with my wife, which filled me with a deep anger. At first, I wanted to find justice, but I started feeling like I wanted to get back at my values. Thanks, Colin. Colin saw how I was feeling and looked worried. Alan, he said, please don't do anything hasty. After everything you've experienced, you don't want to get into more trouble. I looked at him seriously, and he seemed to feel better. I just had to say it, he mumbled as he left. With my thoughts heavy, I drove home to spend Saturday with my family. As I drove, the dark clouds gave way and the sun shone down, making it a nice day. Still, I felt weighed down. My spirits lifted a bit when my kids greeted me with enthusiastic hugs and laughter as I got home. Anne stood in the doorway looking thoughtful and a little worried. She turned and went inside, and we followed her. I suggested we take a trip to Lime Park for a nice walk with lovely views and planned to fly kites and play frisbee. Anne seemed a bit annoyed but agreed to pack a picnic. The drive took about 40 minutes and was filled with chatter. Still, there was a strange silence between Anne and me, which the kids didn't seem to notice as they laughed and joked with us. The day turned out well. The walk, mostly uphill, surprised the kids with how well I managed, even with my stick. The path was wide, but Anne kept her distance. I didn't understand why. Anne took the boys to fly kites while Greta stayed with me in the car to relax. Later, we all played frisbee, and while in the car, Greta raised a concern. Dad, Mom is acting different. She hasn't talked to you much and seems upset. Before she went back to Derek, she was happier. We were laughing, and Jan noticed we rarely laughed around Derek. Then Steph added he was glad to be away from him after what happened with you. Mom reacted strongly. She asked, "What did Dad say?" It was odd. She usually called him Dad, not Father. I reminded her that I planned to talk with Anne later, which might help. We chatted about things, and she expressed her happiness with a hug. We came home feeling cheerful but tired. I went to the kitchen where Anne suddenly told me she and Greta were sorting out tea. I felt a flash of annoyance at her tone. After dinner, I stood up to do the dishes, but she firmly said she would take care of it. With that, she went to the kitchen, leaving the kids and me in silence. I decided I didn't want to engage with her after that. I announced, "I'm leaving. If any of you want to come to the flat, I'll be there all day tomorrow." "I'll come," Greta replied. "I really need a break." I wrote down directions and gave them to her. "Can we come too?" Jan asked. "Of course. Now I'm going." Greta walked with me to the door. "Dad," she said quietly, "you were going to talk with Mom." "Like you said, Greta, Mom is acting strange. She has been avoiding me today and treating me like a stranger in my own home. If she wants to talk, she can come to me, but not tomorrow. She can call to set up a time." "Wow, Dad, that's a bit harsh." "I'm sorry, Greta, but I can't let anyone treat me like that, not even Mom. I won't go back until I get an apology." "Okay, Dad. Bye." She looked upset as she went back inside. As I drove away, I saw Anne at the front door. She waved, but I was already on my way home. After I changed for bed and read in the living room, the phone rang. It was Greta, and she was crying. "Dad?" she sobbed. "When you left, Mom rushed to the door, then she started crying and went to her bedroom. She hasn't come out. I just put the boys to bed, and they're scared. I don't know what to do." I felt a pang of sadness for her. It was upsetting. We had always worked together for the kids' sake, and now they were stuck in the middle. Make her a cup of tea and gently let her know I was upset about how she treated me today, especially in my own kitchen. Tell her to come see me on Monday night so we can talk. That should give her some hope. She sniffled. Okay, Dad. Thanks. That's my girl. Remember, Mom and I have been having problems for a while now. Yes, Dad. I felt really confused and would have to wait until Monday, hoping that Anne would come to the flat. On Sunday, I had barely finished breakfast when the doorbell rang, and my two sons stood there, grinning widely. Hi, Dad! They cheered, rushing into the living room with excitement about something I didn't understand. I looked outside, but no one was there. I followed them into the room. How? I started. Uncle Peter brought us. Greta came too, but she wanted to go back to stay with Mum. Mum was upset last night after you left, but she seemed happier this morning. Is there anything to eat? Well, that certainly gave me some news. No breakfast for you, then? I asked. Uncle Peter came, said Stefan, and we had to get dressed quickly. Mum wanted to feed us, but Greta said you would, so she let us come. It was tough after you left, added Jan. Mum was really upset. Derek had to help her. Did he manage to help her? I asked, then regretted it. But thankfully the boys didn't catch on. Oh yes, she was much better after, said Stefan. Kids can say the most surprising things. I made them some breakfast, cereal, bacon, and eggs, and finally toast. They gobbled it all up. Then Jan asked, What's for lunch, Dad? I was taken aback by his focus. Can we get Pizza Hut? Begged Stefan. I hesitated, but their eager faces convinced me. Where's Jenny? Jan inquired. She went to visit her parents and has a birthday party to attend tonight, so she won't be here. Sorry about that. Jan looked disappointed. I stayed quiet. The day started with bright sunshine, but soon clouds appeared and heavy rain began to fall. The boys watched cartoons on TV while I flipped through a newspaper and found a movie we could see in the afternoon after pizza. Later, it was time for the boys to do their homework. I dropped them off at the gate and drove home. The phone rang. It was Anne. I'm setting up a meeting with you tomorrow. Her voice sounded flat. Okay, I answered. Jenny might be here, but she'll stay out of the way. Fine. She hung up and I thought the conversation felt a bit abrupt. Now I couldn't stop thinking about my meeting with Anne the next day. The more I thought about it, the more complicated it seemed. It felt like a puzzle with missing pieces, and I wasn't sure I had all the information I needed. 35. Jenny noticed I seemed distracted at work. Thankfully, she took care of the planning for the trip to Austria with Jeff while I was there to support her. There was a lot to organize, and the details about getting the building next door were becoming more complicated. At the end of the day, Jenny asked if I wanted her to keep me company that night. At first, I thought it was a strange question, but then remembered I hadn't asked her to be there when Anne came over. I mentioned that Anne might want to discuss her attitude from the past week, and Jenny instinctively thought I wanted to be alone with Anne. Jenny, I said, it would be better if you were there. Besides, you need to meet Anne properly. You can step out while we talk and then come back later. She looked thoughtful and uncertain. Please, I encouraged. She hasn't been very open with me, and I don't know why. It's important for her to see that I'm independent. After thinking it over, she agreed. At 7, after dinner, the doorbell rang. Jenny had changed into a casual shirt and jeans. Looking like that, she went to the door, and I heard them talking from the living room. Peter! Good to see you again! Anne! Great to see you! I heard some muffled responses before Jenny came back into the room with Peter and Anne. We all greeted each other. Anne gave me a friendly nod, looking at Jenny. Peter was smiling, while Anne looked a bit confused but not upset. I kept myself busy making drinks. Peter was driving, but the others had red wine, and I chose a malt whiskey. Then Anne looked at Peter and Jenny. Jenny smiled at Anne. Peter, Jenny said, let's give them some time to talk. He quickly got up and went with her out of the room. Anne looked around the room. Nice place, she said. Viv and David have good taste. I waited for her to say more. Alan, she started, then paused. I stayed quiet, waiting. We've never had a real chance to talk. I continued to wait. Alan, please, she said. This isn't the right time for a long discussion, Anne, I replied calmly. This meeting is for you to explain your actions over the last week. Alan, please don't make this harder. Anne, just tell me, I urged. I saw tears starting to form in her eyes. Alan, I'm sorry. I forgive you, but I really need you to explain because I don't understand. There are two things, she said, pausing to collect her thoughts. I have been thinking about them the whole way here, but it's hard to remember. Anne, just speak. Okay. After a long pause, she continued. It was when we were all at the house together. You were in the garden with the kids. It had happened many times before, but this time, you didn't feel like my husband anymore, and I felt like I had let you down. Everything looked the same, but something was missing, or I was missing something. Later, you talked about being there for the kids, but you left me out of it, and that really hurt, Alan. I wish things could go back to how they were, but I know that's not possible now. Alan, I've been very upset. This past weekend showed me that we can't be together, and I felt angry not at you, but about our situation. I pulled away, and I'm sorry for that. I want you to come back to me, but it seems like that can't happen now. Tears filled her eyes. Anne, I said softly, I want to make things work, but right now there are too many things we haven't talked about, too many questions in my mind. I'm with someone else who needs me. You might not see that, but she does. I can't let her down. My feelings for you are mixed, and everyone expects me to go back to the way things were. I can't do that. It's not about wanting to. It's about not being able to remember the good times. Do you understand? She nodded, looking sad. Give it time, I said. I don't want to get into my worries right now, but I'm open to discussing everything later. Does that sound good? She nodded. Yes, I'd like that. I think it will be tough. About Derek. Alan, can we talk about that a little? I'm not sure that's wise, but go ahead. When I went back to his place on Sunday, I felt really sad and alone. I had left you after saying I would stay until Monday morning. My pride stopped me from coming back, and then I ended up with Derek, whom I blamed for everything. I had to spend the night away from the kids and from you, but I didn't expect what happened when I got there. She paused to see how I would react, and I encouraged her to go on. Derek was sitting in a chair, clearly drunk. He welcomed me with, "Oh, you're back." I replied yes, and he asked if I was back for good. I said no, and then he started crying, asking me to come back to him because he felt very lonely. I told him he had brought this on himself, and he insisted he hadn't done anything to you. He said he was just trying to help and pleaded with me to believe him, asking why I would blame him when it was not his fault I had been with him. I know this is tough for you, Alan, but after living with him for over a year, I can tell when he is being honest. He truly doesn't understand what's happening and thinks you and Colin are trying to hurt him on purpose. He feels lost and sees me as his only support. I believe he is innocent. I wish you would give him a chance. So, what did you do? Well, let me guess, I said, more firmly than I intended. You backed him up. Well, yes. All the way to the bedroom. She became upset. Yes, I took him to bed, but he was so drunk he couldn't do anything. Are you happy now? I'm happy to know what happened. I understand why you have been distant, so are you going back to him? No, Alan, she replied strongly. I am not going back to him, but I will see him. He needs me. Okay, I said. That clears up some things. Just minutes ago, you wanted me to be with you. Now you're saying you'll keep seeing him. That doesn't give me much hope for us. Alan, she pleaded, I do want that, but he needs me right now. I'm sure he didn't want you to leave. I'm sure. Well, that's just great, I said. There's a lot of proof that suggests otherwise, yet you defend him. That shows where your loyalty is. Suddenly, she looked worried and went quiet. I didn't say anything. I was unsure what I had said to cause that reaction and felt there was nothing more to add. Then she stood up. I should go, she said. Anne, I urged, just sit down for a minute. To my surprise, she did. Listen, I said carefully. We have a family together. We need to be at least friendly for the kids. They shouldn't have to see one of us upset or quiet. They come first, right? She nodded, but her face was hard to read. So let's agree to disagree on some things and save those talks for later. Do you still want to figure this out? Yes, Alan, she replied. But you just said you didn't see the point. No, I said I couldn't see us resolving this while you're still involved with Derek. That makes your wish for us hard to believe. You're free to choose what you want. I didn't say we couldn't talk, just don't expect it to lead to us getting back together. I can't picture that happening. I did say that our talks could be tough. You've just seen how hard it can be, and that's just part of it. She was quiet and seemed to accept this. I still want to talk, she said. Then shall we go forward as friends for the kids' sake? Yes. No more silent treatment? No. No more making me feel out of place in your home? Alan, darling, it's your home. I'm sorry. It won't happen again. It will be your home for as long as you want, forever if you like. I can even sign it back to you if that helps you feel safer. At this, the tears began again, and she came over, kneeling beside me to give me a warm hug. There were no words needed. Then she stood and said, I think it's time to go. Can we make plans to talk later? I agreed, but mentioned we needed one evening to set some basic rules before the real talks began. You're always practical, she smiled. Will you start coming for dinner again? As often as I can. You may not know, but we're looking to take over the lease on the factory next door. We're growing, so I might be working late for a bit, but not this coming week, I think. Then come every night, she suggested with a little smile. What about Jenny sometimes? I asked. A brief look crossed her face, but she quickly bounced back. Yes, of course. The children really like her, you know. They keep asking when she will visit. Jan thinks a lot of her. Anne looked a bit surprised. Anne, he's almost 14, it's normal, she laughed. If he takes her away from you, maybe I'll have a chance. It was a light joke, but there was a hint of seriousness underneath. I kept my calm and smiled. She called Peter and they got ready to leave. Jenny seemed a bit shy. Jenny? Yes. You like him, don't you? No, she said a bit too loudly. I chuckled. He's very nice, she said in a serious tone. Very kind, and he listens better than most. We had a good talk, but you're the one I want to spend time with tonight. Before I could think about that, she changed into something more comfortable, and I lost my focus for a moment. Come on, she teased. Let's see what you have planned. I followed her lead, sharing playful banter as we moved to the bedroom, where we enjoyed laughter and good conversation together. The next evening, I had dinner with Anne and the children. It went well, and the kids were happy to see me back. I could tell Greta was pleased that Anne and I were getting along again. Soon, I needed to leave for an appointment. Colin picked me up and reminded me not to mention the accounts. I agreed. We had a nice evening, and the only talk related to my case was about a mysterious person involved in some money issues. We didn't come up with much, but Keith did some impressive work digging into Derek's past connections. Colin and David left early, and I stayed for another drink with Keith, who offered to drive me home. As we prepared to leave, I heard someone call out, "Is that Alan?" I turned to see a group of about 8 cheerful people clearly enjoying their night out. "Hey, Alan!" shouted a big redhead with a wide smile, catching the attention of the rest of the group. I didn't recognize any of the people around me. Were they fans from TV or old friends? There was only one way to find out. Keith hesitated, but I gave him an encouraging look, and he decided to come with me. "Hello," I said to the redhead. "Do I know you?" He seemed confused. "Vin?" he asked, and the group looked at each other with puzzled expressions. "Pleased to meet you, Vin," I said, reaching out my hand for a handshake. "I'm sorry," I added. "You must have seen me on TV, or you wouldn't know me. If that's true, you probably know I went through an accident that changed me a bit." Laughter followed. "My memories of that time are unclear, so I don't remember any of you," I explained as I looked at the group. "That's amazing," said a man with long black hair. "The incident was because of that guy Fanshawe, right?" asked a woman with light blonde hair. "I can't say," I replied. "As I said, I don't remember what happened. The police think it's possible, though." They invited me to sit down, making sure there was room for Keith, too. They bought us drinks, and I shared my story of recovery, which seemed to impress them. They were more interested in talking about Derek than asking about my life. I listened quietly as they shared information. "A tricky person," one man said. "Did you hear he got divorced? His wife caught him with someone else while she was at work. He was so distracted that he let his business slip, which is how she found out." I felt tight with tension. I noticed a woman beside him pulling his arm and suddenly realizing the situation. "Oh no," he said, turning red. "The woman—" "Yes," I jumped in. "Might be my ex-wife, but now I'm curious about when their relationship started. I can't remember that time." "Well," he hesitated. "Look," I said firmly, "we're divorced. She was going to marry Fanshawe. Knowing the timeline would help me. I was robbed 2 years ago." "When did the divorce happen?" After some discussion, they agreed it was the November before my August robbery. I remembered that David or Viv had mentioned something about Derek's divorce before, noting how we had supported him through that time. He might have been seeing Anne while I was away, or maybe they were mixing her up with someone he had met before the divorce. I thanked them and we said goodbye, exchanging wishes for my recovery and invitations to meet again next week at the Cross Keys. "Don't jump to conclusions," Keith advised as we headed to my flat. "I won't," I replied. "I'm so confused that I couldn't if I wanted to." We both laughed before he went home. Once I was back at my place, I sat and thought. The more I learned about Anne and Derek, the more confusing it became. Then I realized that the best way to understand Derek's situation was to ask his ex-wife. I realized I needed to find her to get to the bottom of things. If only I had endless time and no other duties, I could have done this quickly, but it took longer than I thought. 36. The next few days were very busy at work. All sales activities were put on hold as we worked out the lease and terms for the new building. It was a tough job. The leasing company was asking for a lot, but wasn't getting offers from other interested parties. We were negotiating firmly, but they were being hard to deal with. The four of us, Jeff, Judy, Jenny, and I, were fully engaged, trying to manage our other tasks as well. We arrived early and left late. Noticing the stress, Anne invited me over for dinner each night and even suggested asking Jenny to join us on Thursday. Greta and Jan were happy when I brought Jenny along, though Anne was a bit cautious, yet she welcomed us warmly. Stefan seemed friendly but a bit distant. Jenny quickly joined Anne in the kitchen. When I tried to go in, she kindly told me to stay out. Anne seemed unsure about my exclusion, likely recalling a past incident. But when she saw me smile, she relaxed. I enjoyed watching my kids move about. Soon I could hear Jenny and Anne talking like they were old friends. After dinner, they tidied up, again encouraging me to leave the room. As Jenny and I left early to rest, Anne looked thoughtful. Jenny was excited about Anne. "I remember how pretty she looked at the ball, but she's amazing, so welcoming. We got along right away." "I noticed," I said. "I'm glad to hear that. It makes life much easier." She asked if we can watch the kids on Saturday. "All day?" "Yes, Greta has a party in the evening, but we can pick her up afterward if she wants us to. She might choose to come home by herself." "No way," I said firmly. "She's too young for that." "Come on," Jenny replied calmly. "She's a good girl and she's 17. Good girls sometimes make risky choices. Alan, she needs to experience life. She has good values. Trust her." "Fine," I said reluctantly. "We'll babysit on Saturday. What's Anne doing?" There was a brief silence. "She's spending the day with Derek," Jenny said softly. "He seems to be having a hard time." I felt a surge of anger, but stayed quiet, gripping the steering wheel tighter. "Alan, she feels she should help him. She believes he's not to blame for what happened. If she thought differently, she wouldn't be with him." "I don't get why she thinks that way. The evidence is clear." "No, Alan, she's just trying to be kind." We paused as we went upstairs to the flat, got some drinks, and sat down. Then Jenny surprised me. "Alan, are you sure you're upset with Anne because of Derek? Could it be jealousy? Do you think you might like her?" "No way," I answered firmly. "You think she's pretty? Well, yes, she's a lovely woman, and just your kind." "I don't know what my kind is. Can we talk about something else?" That ended the conversation. We went to bed and slept. The next evening, Friday, Jeff and I decided we needed a break from work for the weekend. Jenny mentioned she was going to her apartment to clean up before meeting friends. I went back to the house. After dinner, where I helped with the dishes, the kids went to bed and we settled into the living room. "I guess you want to focus on the building plans before we figure out when to talk?" she asked. "Yes, it's taking up most of our time." "Did Jenny say anything about tomorrow?" I clenched my jaw. "Yes. I need to tell you something. I know you'll say I can do what I want, but I want to share this. When I last saw him, we were together, but nothing happened. I felt he needed comfort, and tomorrow I might give him a hug, but that's all. He's having a tough time, his business isn't doing well, and he feels alone. I don't care about the past. He needs help to get through this. If he's wrong, he'll deal with it later, but right now I want to support him." It was a lot to think about. I couldn't understand her reasoning, but she seemed determined to go on with it. I wasn't sure about her intentions, but strangely, her certainty made her actions seem a little more understandable. Still, she was downplaying how serious Derek's past actions were toward me. "Anne, you do what you think is right. You don't need to explain yourself to me." "But Alan, don't you see? That's exactly what I need to do. I made a mistake when I divorced you. I was led to believe things that weren't true. If I hadn't, we would still be together. You would have come home. I feel wronged even though it's my own fault. I still feel like your wife. I want to be with you. It's just unfortunate that I have this other man who needs me right now." "Okay," I said. "I have someone who needs me too." She looked taken aback, as if she hadn't thought about that. "Exactly," she replied quietly. "That was it. I needed to leave, so I said goodnight to the kids, kissed Anne goodbye, and she hugged me tightly." I felt a bit off in that moment, and she noticed. Her shoulders dropped, and she smiled sadly, asking me to come by early the next day. I returned to my apartment, half expecting Jenny to come after her night out, but by 11, she still hadn't arrived. So I called her phone. She picked up. It was very quiet on her end, with no sounds of conversation or laughter. I mentioned the quietness, and she shyly said she was at her apartment, feeling tired and wanting some rest. We decided I would pick her up around 8 so we could get to the house early, as Anne wanted. She ended the call rather quickly, so I called back right away. "We got disconnected," I said. "Just wanted to tell you I love you and good night." "Oh, right," she replied absent-mindedly. "Love you too. See you in the morning." The next day was smooth. Anne went to meet her partner. After breakfast, Jenny and Greta went shopping while the boys and I went bowling. We all came back to the house around 4 and had dinner together before Greta got ready for a party. When she came downstairs, Jenny and I were surprised. She looked very different. She wore a fashionable outfit that suited her well. Her makeup was noticeable but pleasant, and her hair was nicely styled, showing off her graceful neck. She looked beautiful. Jenny clapped while I worried about her safety. It probably showed on my face because Greta came over and hugged me. "All the girls dress like this, Daddy," she whispered to me. "I can take care of myself at the party. I don't have a boyfriend and I'm not ready for that. Danny's parents are in charge, okay?" I was taken aback by her honesty. I saw Jenny smiling, and I suspected they had talked about this before. "Daddy, can Jenny drive me home tonight? Around midnight?" Greta asked. "Alan," Jenny said, "how about I take her to my place? It's closer to the party than coming back here." I agreed, feeling better knowing Greta would have a ride home. I could stay at the house since there was a spare bedroom. Then the doorbell rang. One of Greta's friends stood at the door with her mother's car waiting nearby. The girl wore a similar outfit, which made me think about what my daughter was wearing. Greta watched her friend leave and hugged me. "I'm dressed more modestly underneath," she whispered. I think she enjoyed reassuring me after I had missed those earlier years of her teenage life when many of her values were formed. We played Scrabble with the boys, helping them settle down. As I said goodnight to Stefan, he asked, "Is Jenny coming to say goodnight?" I promised he would see her, and he smiled. It felt like a good moment. Jenny went upstairs to say goodnight and hugged both boys. I couldn't help but think how lucky they were. A little later, I checked on them, and they were both fast asleep. I sat next to Jenny, and she nestled against me. While we listened to some soft music, we enjoyed being together, sharing a warm moment. "The boys?" she asked. "No chance," I answered with a smile. "They can sleep through anything once they're out." We enjoyed our time together, and the feel of the room was warm and easy. As the clock neared 11, she stood to get dressed, and I did the same. It was time for her to pick up Greta. We shared a long hug, and she looked at me thoughtfully before leaving. At 11:30, the phone rang. It was Anne. "I know this is a big ask," she said hesitantly, "but could you both stay at the house until tomorrow morning? I'm worried about Derek. He might hurt himself, and I think he's serious." "Okay," I replied, though my thoughts wandered in ways that didn't help. "Jenny is picking up Greta, and they'll stay at my place. I'll see you in the morning." After she hung up, I felt a mix of frustration and confusion as I cleaned the sofa and got ready for bed. Nothing seemed clear. My mind raced. Anne says she's not going to be with him, yet she is. Why can't she just leave me alone? She keeps saying she cares about me, but she is with someone who has hurt me. Maybe there was more to their bond than she let on. It felt like she had been with him for a long time, and I had missed it. It seemed her feelings for him were stronger than mine. Were the kids the only reason she came back? At least I found some comfort in knowing the kids didn't like him. It kept them apart. As these thoughts spun in my mind, I felt betrayed and angry, and I eventually drifted off to sleep. I woke early Sunday morning. The sun was shining and the birds were singing, but I couldn't enjoy it. I sat alone in the quiet kitchen thinking about my strange life. The frantic thoughts from the night before faded into a dull sense of sadness and uncertainty about my past and future. All I had was the present, and it was hard to deal with it when everything felt unsure. I kept wondering if I really loved Anne, as Jenny and Viv said. It didn't feel like love, but how could I truly know? I had loved Trish and felt heartbroken when she left. I loved Jenny, but I feared she would leave too, and maybe I deserved that. Was I really in love with either of them? Then there was Anne. As I thought, I heard the front door open. At 9 o'clock, with both boys still asleep, Anne came in. When she saw me, she looked troubled and started to explain. "Alan, I didn't sleep with him. There was nothing between us. He stayed in the bedroom while I kept watch until this morning. I slept across the hall with the doors open in case he tried to hurt himself. Please believe me." I was surprised by her words. I felt intense anger and jealousy. "You've left him now?" I said sharply. "Does he only want help when it's too late?" She looked pale but managed to stay calm. He seemed calmer this morning. He promised to see a doctor tomorrow. He felt lost and didn't understand what was going on. I felt sure he didn't deserve this. He wasn't worried about the trial or the future. He was just confused about his present situation. Was Derek really acting like the innocent one? He looked sad and confused, but it felt planned. He definitely had Anne's attention. If something happened to him, she would feel guilty. With his occasional remarks, he probably made sure she would keep coming back to him. Why couldn't she see through it? "I'm sorry," I finally said, pushing the words out. "You don't seem to realize he's playing with your feelings. Maybe you don't want to see it. You told me you wanted to work on our marriage and that you still felt committed to me. Is that what married people do? Spend the night with someone else? This isn't helping." She became defensive. "It's not like that, and you know it. He's been important to me for over a year. You know I wouldn't have considered him if this hadn't happened. I'm sorry, Alan," she added with a sad tone, "but I need to support him. I couldn't forgive myself if something terrible happened." "Well," I replied sharply, standing up and heading to the door, "it seems no matter what you say, I no longer matter to you. You always support him, which makes me feel like you think I'm lying. Now I'm stuck waiting while you go be with him. I don't feel any loyalty from you. I wonder if you were ever truly loyal to me." I left the room before she could respond, collecting my things as I waited for Jenny and Greta, who arrived 10 minutes later. I hurried down the stairs. "Was it a good party?" I asked Greta, and she nodded, looking tired. "Come on," I told Jenny. "We're leaving." Jenny looked at me with a question in her eyes, but followed me out. Anne was nowhere to be seen, and Greta had disappeared into her room. As we drove, I felt tense, and Jenny could sense it. "She stayed the night with him," I said. "Oh," was her only reply. Jenny always knew when to be quiet. In the parking lot, I rested my head on the steering wheel. "Jenny, I don't understand what's happening. I think she was involved with Derek long before he tried to hurt me. Maybe she knew about it. One moment she says she wants me back and feels married to me, then she asks me to wait while she spends the night with him. I think we need to move on. She lives there with the kids, and Derek won't be around for long. I'll have visitation rights. This pretend friendship isn't working. Can she truly believe he's innocent? With all the evidence against him, it doesn't add up. I think she's just as dishonest as he is." "She might just be trying to help," Jenny replied softly. "He seems quite convincing." "I have more proof, Jenny." "What do you mean?" "His stories show he funded the attempted crime. I think he believed I was gone when he forged that letter. If I had been there, I would have caught him lying." "Has he admitted to making the letter?" "I'm not sure, but it hasn't changed Anne's mind. She is firmly on his side, and I feel left out." She comforted me as we walked to my flat. She held me close, and I found comfort in her presence as I cried. Everything felt too heavy to bear. She softly hummed, and eventually I fell asleep. When I woke up, I found myself alone and confused about where I was and what time it was. I soon heard Jenny's muffled voice from the living room, clearly upset while talking on the phone. The rain fell hard against the window. I looked at my watch. It was 3:15 in the afternoon, and the calm morning had turned into a stormy day. After getting up to visit the bathroom, I returned to find Jenny waiting for me, looking troubled. "Are you all right?" she asked. I nodded. "I'm stepping out for a bit. Can I use your car?" she asked. I nodded again. "I'll be back soon," she said, grabbing her coat and umbrella, silently offering me her umbrella. With a smile, she hugged me. "Love you," she whispered. I replied, "Love you too," as she hurried down the stairs. In the quiet that followed, I went into the kitchen and found a pot of freshly made tea. While sipping it, I looked out at the stormy scene outside, feeling spent from everything that had happened. Determined to make some progress, I prepared a light meal, cutting some bread and making Stilton cheese with a green salad. Feeling more awake, I pulled out the lease proposals for the factory, hoping to find a reasonable agreement. We needed at least 10 years, but they were asking for a minimum of 20. I thought 15 with a low penalty escape clause might work. Focused on the details, I was startled when the doorbell rang. It was David standing at the door. "Jenny's been over to see us," he said. "She took the car back to her place and will pick you up at 8 tomorrow. If you need the car, call her and she'll bring it back. How about a drink?" I realized that was exactly what I wanted. Settled in the lounge bar of the Cross Keys with a pint of the guest beer in front of us, David began to talk. "Bit of a mess," he said. "Yep. The women are talking." "Oh? I wasn't part of it. Still using fancy words, I see." He ignored my teasing. "Jenny called Viv. I heard half the conversation. Greta called her too. Anne is having a hard time." "Still the wordsmith," I commented. He smiled. "I heard Jenny helped calm Greta down. I understand that Anne asked you to take care of the kids while she spent the night with Derek." "That's right." He shook his head in disbelief. "And Anne doesn't see why you're upset?" "Exactly, I wouldn't just say upset. I don't know if there's a word for it. Maybe confused fits better. I just can't figure out what she's thinking." Anyway, then Jenny asked to come over. That ended our talk. I was sent away when she got here. They chatted for a while, then Viv went to talk to Anne. We paused to drink our beers, each lost in our own thoughts. Then he spoke again. "Alan, do you love Anne?" "Yes," I answered without thinking. "But I don't like her right now. I mean, I'm drawn to her as a person. I like a lot of her qualities, or at least I think I do. I want her to be stable with the kids. Like I said, I don't understand what she's doing. I love Jenny, and Jenny and I have a real connection. I don't cheat on my partners like some people do. I don't leave them either." "Okay," he replied, understanding my point, and we fell silent again. "David," I said, "I'm starting to believe that Anne and Derek were involved before I disappeared. It's the only way I can understand why she chose him over me. I've heard some things about Derek's divorce involving a married woman with kids he was seeing while her husband was at work. Do you know anything about that?" David looked a bit uneasy. After a moment, he sat up straight, having made a decision. "I'll be honest with you, Alan. I followed the divorce, and so did you. Derek's wife had proof of his unfaithfulness with reports and photos from a private investigator. She threatened to share them unless he agreed to a divorce and a big settlement. It really hurt him, but he did what he had to do to protect his new relationship. I never thought Anne was the woman. As Viv says, Anne always thought highly of you. It's true she was very upset when you were gone. Derek was around a lot then, but she only seemed interested in him after she got that fake letter. Look, the only way to find out what's going on is to see Stephanie Fanshawe. I'll find her address for you. I'm sure when you talk to her, you'll realize your doubts aren't true." "I hope so, David, I really do. Thanks for all your help." "What are friends for?" he said with a gentle smile. We left the pub together and he dropped me off at my apartment. From Monday to Wednesday, I focused only on the new building. It was stressful and tiring. Jenny called Anne and told her I wouldn't be around until the contract was signed. Jenny and I went out to eat every evening, and afterward, we headed back to our own apartments, feeling worn out. On Wednesday afternoon, we signed the contracts and felt proud to have more space. That night, Jenny came over to my place, and we made dinner together. Afterward, we had a shower and celebrated our success in a simple way. The next morning, we woke up and shared a brief moment together before realizing we were late for work. When we arrived, Jeff told us there would be a party after work on Friday for everyone who could come. He had booked the upper room of the Cross Keys for 7:30 and arranged for a large buffet. I thought it was a great idea. Wives, husbands, and partners are invited along with their kids, Jeff said. Susan is coming, and so are David and Viv. Why don't you invite Anne and the kids? They are part of all this. Good idea, Jenny said. Anne has probably been feeling a bit left out. I saw the sense in that and agreed. Back in my office, I called her and she happily accepted the invitation, but then asked something gently. Alan, it's the children's half-term next week. You used to work from home and look after them. Can you do that next week? I was thrilled. This was a great chance to spend time with my kids after being away for so long. That's a great idea, I replied. See you all on Friday evening. Oh, she sounded a bit sad. What's wrong? Well, I know we had a little issue last weekend, but you haven't been over since then. I know you've been busy, but the kids have been asking about you. I thought for a moment. How about Jenny coming too? I asked. Is that okay with you? Yes, that's fine, she said, but her tone hinted that it wasn't what she truly wanted. I smiled to myself. It would be nice for all of us to be together. Jenny seemed a bit pensive, but she agreed to come. During lunch, I stumbled upon an ad for last-minute holidays in Wales. One of the deals was at a holiday resort by the coast surrounded by trees. It had activities for kids like sailing, climbing, soccer, horseback riding, and a private beach, as well as cabins for staying. Perfect for the kids and me. It was time to think things over and figure out my plans. I also wanted Jenny to manage the sales and contracts on her own. I mentioned this to Jeff, who suggested I take a break. I trusted Jenny would do just fine. I called Anne to share the idea with her. There was a moment of silence before she said she would check with the kids. She thought Greta would enjoy a getaway, especially now that she was done with her exams. I tentatively booked the week off. The kids were excited, and Greta seemed happy when Jenny and I arrived. In the evening, Jenny and Anne got along well, which meant I didn't have to interact very much, and that was a relief for me. Jenny got home that evening. It was nice to see so many people at the party. It wasn't required, but many came. Some brought partners, and others brought their kids. Jeff had a clever idea to hire someone to entertain the children in a nearby room. I had a great time walking around and was surprised at how many girls from work smiled and chatted with me. I smiled back but kept it light. I could see Jenny raising her eyebrows a bit but smiling too. This is why I wanted to keep our relationship private, she said when we got a moment together. I understood what she meant. I ended up talking with David while Viv chatted with Anne. Then, I joined in a conversation with Susan and Anne. Greta seemed happy talking with a couple of teens. I lost track of Anne for a bit, but later saw Viv and Susan talking seriously with Jenny. I was curious, but soon got caught up in a chat with someone from the research team who had some boring ideas. Jeff gave a nice speech celebrating our teamwork and mentioned my efforts. He hinted at my contributions. Everything went well, the food was tasty, and then we had some dancing. I enjoyed dancing with friends, having some slow dances with Viv, Susan, Jenny, and a few other friendly girls from work. As the night ended, I noticed Greta talking comfortably with a boy. It was a reminder that she was growing up. Letting go of our kids is hard, especially since I had missed some important years while she was a teenager. Back at home, Jenny told me she would miss me for the week and stayed over, showing her care. Before leaving with the kids, I asked Keith to keep an eye on Anne, wanting to understand her better while I was gone. He agreed to let me know how she was. Our week-long trip was great. Even though I couldn't join in all the activities because of my condition, it didn't seem to bother my friends. Greta made bonds with 2 girls her age, and they spent lots of time together. One day she invited me to go horse riding, and I noticed the girls catching the attention of some boys, which was no surprise. I often found myself alone and took the chance to work out at a well-equipped gym. The trainers found it amusing to see me, a man with a limp, using the equipment. At the cabin, I enjoyed the sunny porch, catching up on books I wanted to read and organizing my notes from the past weeks. Since Trish suggested it, I had been writing down my daily experiences and putting them on my laptop. This helped me think about Anne and Derek more clearly. Evenings were spent playing board games or watching movies, and we enjoyed meals out, which gave me a nice break. On our way home, the car felt full of happy people. I sensed that we had grown closer during the trip. Steph, in particular, felt like a good friend. Jan made a comment without any hesitation until Greta pointed it out. "You know, Dad, if it weren't for your face, it's like you were never gone." I appreciated that. As Jan got out of the car, he told me how wonderful it was to have me back. I just wish, he paused. What? I asked. Nothing. He turned away, but I thought I understood what he meant, even if I couldn't imagine it happening. The boys rushed into Anne's arms, excitedly sharing their adventures and the awards they had earned. Greta hugged Anne too, planning to share her thoughts later. Anne was busy welcoming the kids, so I decided to leave instead of staying for tea and said I would contact them early in the week. Jenny wasn't home, but there were signs that she had been around. The mail was neatly stacked on the hallway table except for that day's post. I picked it up and saw a familiar envelope from Keith. I chose not to open it just then. I made a pot of tea and noticed Jenny had bought the groceries I would need, especially some milk. I settled into my armchair thinking about the holiday and my feelings for Derek and Anne. I felt calm, knowing what I needed to do. The only clear things were the loyalty of my friends and Jenny. Everyone else, especially Anne and Derek, could be tricky. The mixed signals were obvious. What one said seemed to cancel out the other. Anne herself seemed to be full of contradictions, which made her seem either guilty or confused. Derek claimed he was innocent and acted wronged, but all signs pointed to him being the source of my issues. The main question was whether they were involved before I left, and if their involvement caused Derek's issues. If Anne realized she was part of Derek's problems, she might have felt guilty, which could explain her distress after I disappeared. I couldn't believe she was part of anything wrong with Derek. I could read her emotions and saw she had strong feelings for me, even if she appeared to prefer Derek, which felt confusing. Her efforts to distance herself from him could be related to feeling guilty. There was only one thing to do to clear everything up. I needed to see Stephanie Fanshawe. That was my main goal. How wrong I was, and I would find out soon. After dinner, I decided to visit my local pub before it became too busy and the music started. After a week of limited choices during my holiday, the idea of enjoying a quick beer was tempting. I hadn't realized that since Derek's arrest, I had become a short topic in the news. My face was seen on TV while discussing the case, and now people recognized me, even if I looked a bit different than before. That early evening, I was walking to the pub for a simple night out. "Hey!" a woman called from across the street. I stopped and turned to see 3 women waving at me. "Alan Johnson?" the brunette asked, and I nodded. They came over to me. "Alan, don't you remember us?" said the second woman with dark hair and a bright smile, while the third had light brown hair. They looked to be around my age, charming yet familiar. Their warm smiles made me feel welcomed. I smiled back but shook my head. "Sorry, ladies, my memory isn't the best these days," I said, touching my face gently. The brunette looked a bit sad, and the others seemed understanding, which I appreciated. "We're going out for a girls' night in town," said the one with light brown hair. They exchanged glances before she added, "But this is better. Come have a drink with us." I agreed. I was heading to the pub anyway, and adult company seemed nice after spending time with younger folks all week. Once we had our drinks, the 3 women looked at me with curiosity. I raised an eyebrow. "What? You really don't remember us?" the brunette asked. "No," I replied. "You might have noticed I've had some trouble with my memory." I lightly touched my forehead. They seemed torn between smiling and being serious, but I continued smiling to lighten the mood. "I keep having to explain this to people," I added. They pulled themselves together. "Okay," said the brunette. "I'm Tracy Connor. This is Laura Russell," pointing to the woman with dark hair. "And that is Bonnie Truscott." We exchanged handshakes. I noticed they all wore wedding rings and discreetly started my recorder in my pocket. "Nice to meet you," I said. "How do you know me? Were we in Manchester together?" They laughed. "Anne was the clever one. We left after our exams." "You're friends of Anne's?" I asked. "That's right," Tracy said with a smile. "Laura was a bridesmaid at your wedding, don't you remember?" I shook my head again. "Hasn't she shown you pictures of your wedding?" she pressed, trying to help me remember. "No," I said. "We haven't seen much of each other since I accidentally interrupted the pre-wedding party. We were at Anne's party the night you came in, but we didn't see you. You were in another room." Anne returned to us quiet and unhappy, and then went home without saying anything. We were left wondering what to do next. "I'm sorry about that," I said lightly, "but if she had talked to me when I reached out weeks ago, maybe things would be different." "Oh," said Laura. "Yes, she was very upset when you came back. She didn't know the whole story, but that's just how Anne is. Suddenly, I saw a chance to get help. I smiled and said, "Maybe you can help me." I quickly shared what happened to me and expressed my worries about Anne. "You see," I finished, "even though she seems to want to rekindle our relationship, I don't remember everything about our past. I don't really know her. I know she can be headstrong and has a bit of a temper. You three know her better than most. What can you tell me about her?" There was a brief silence as they took in what I said. "Where do we start?" asked Bonnie. "Well," I suggested, "let's talk about how she feels towards me after 2 years apart. She was with someone else, but she was really upset." They exchanged glances that I couldn't read. Tracy muttered something I didn't quite catch. Bonnie then said, "What you need to understand, Alan, is that Anne has two strong traits. She has many qualities, but these two stand out. The first is loyalty." "That's true," Tracy added. "Before you came along, she dated different guys. She got a lot of attention, but she never let anyone get too close. Most left when things didn't get serious. She didn't dwell on being rejected. She felt upset, but moved on quickly. When she got involved, she invested everything, but none stayed long enough for her to trust them. There was a guy named Graham who was charming but not honest. He took advantage of her after convincing her she was special. For about 6 months, she was completely loyal to him, while he was not. When we found out he was seeing someone else, we told her. But when she asked him, she believed his denial. That was typical of her. She stood by him, which created tension between us for a while. "Yes," Bonnie said. "It took a long time for Laura to convince her to go to a club where she knew he would be. And there he was with someone else. This is where her temper shows," Laura shared. "She went right up to him and confronted him, then left with me. I took a taxi to my place with her. She was upset the whole way until we reached my flat, and then she broke down. I've seen girls upset after a breakup, but this was really hard to watch. She cried for hours. I got her some cool cloths and water, then helped her get to bed and held her hand until she fell asleep. The next morning, she was very quiet, and even though we all tried to talk to her, she reacted sharply. It was like she had completely shut out what had happened. From that moment on, she wasn't her usual cheerful self until someone finally reached out to her." There was a brief silence. "She started dating again," said Tracy. "But none of the guys she went out with lasted more than 2 dates. She had a tough time with them, thinking that all men were untrustworthy." "You mean it affected her more because she cared a lot about that relationship?" I asked. "Yeah, I guess so," Tracy replied. "Wait," interrupted Bonnie. "What about Tim?" "Oh yes, Timmy," said Laura. "That brings us to another important side of her." "Exactly," Bonnie agreed. "She really felt for those who were going through hard times. I know she supported him a lot when he needed help." "He was really down," said Laura. "For some reason, he struggled to find success in dating, and she wanted to help him out. She didn't expect it to be long-term, but she guided him through it." "Then Graham came back," Bonnie continued. "He was full of apologies and realized he had made a mistake, and she took him back." "Right," said Tracy. "That only lasted about a week until she saw him talking to another girl. He tried to explain that the girl was just a friend, but she wouldn't believe it. That was the end." "So there were no more men in her life after that," Laura noted. "She focused on her studies when she started at Manchester Uni. Then you came into the picture. Do you remember that?" I shook my head. "I'm not surprised," she went on. "She was really distant with you. You dated for a bit and then broke up, but you kept trying, and eventually she agreed to go out again. Then she said you weren't making any moves. She decided to take charge, but felt it didn't go well. She even wondered if you were interested in her at all." "It worked, though," Tracy said. "Eventually you got through to her. I remember her coming home in tears, and we thought it was over, but you had been honest with her about how you felt. You encouraged her to talk, and she opened up about her feelings towards you and what bothered her in relationships. She mentioned that she felt hurt by your quietness." "Yes," Bonnie added. "You told her you were serious about relationships and wouldn't make any moves unless there was real commitment. What hurt her was your comment about her commitment, pointing out how often she ended things. Even though you found her very appealing, you wanted to see more loyalty." "That did it," Laura said. "You mentioned loyalty. She thought she might lose you, and of course she wanted you back. When you called and asked her out, she was thrilled." The women looked at me. "Thanks," I said. "That really helps." "So, are you two going to work things out?" Laura asked, clearly wishing for good news. I decided to be honest. "Sorry, Laura," I replied. "I'm seeing someone else now." But I had reached my limit. I could have given the usual excuses, but I didn't feel like it. "We're divorced. Anne made her choice. I'm with someone else now, that's all there is to it." Their excitement faded, and they soon left, giving me warm hugs that were nice. I was left to my own thoughts. Sadly, they had taken up all the quiet time in the pub. The music wasn't my style, and I left feeling a bit down. I needed the calm of home to think. With this new information, I understood more about my history with Anne and her feelings. It clarified why she had been so upset with me earlier. It also showed why she supported Derek so strongly, even when there was proof against him. He seemed like someone who needed help, and she wanted to stand by him. This helped me see her struggle between her loyalty to me and her connection to Derek. After 20 years of marriage, she felt she had to stand by me, but there was also her long history with Derek. Our 3 children made things even trickier. Derek counting on her felt like she was looking after another child. It was tough to accept. While this new understanding was helpful, many questions were still unanswered. I hadn't talked to Derek's ex yet, and I expected more truths to come out. Jenny hadn't called by 11, so I decided to head to bed. On Sunday morning, while reading the newspaper, the phone rang. It was Keith. "Did you get my report?" he asked straight away. I suddenly remembered. "Oh no, Keith, I saw it and meant to read it but forgot. My memory can be a bit off sometimes." "Could you read it now? I can come over. I'm in the area. We can talk about it." "Is it a problem, Keith?" "That's the thing, I'm not sure. It's confusing." "What's new? All right, come over." I opened the envelope. I felt a bit uneasy asking him to check on Anne, but I needed to know. There was a timeline of events. She had visited Derek on Saturday afternoon while I was away with the kids in Wales, staying for about 2 hours. On Sunday, nothing happened. On Monday, she went to his house, and they had dinner at the restaurant where David and I had met them. They shared a moment at the door before she spent the night and left early the next morning. That evening, Derek came to the house in Sale, but Anne seemed upset to see him. They had a disagreement at the door, and she didn't let him in before he left. On Wednesday, he showed up at her office, and they went to lunch together. He drove her back to her office, and they shared a brief moment in the car before she went inside. Later that night, she went to his house and stayed over. On Thursday night, she had dinner with David and Vivian, but left in a hurry with another man, dropping him off before heading home to spend the night alone. Derek came by late that night and knocked on her door, but she did not answer, and he left feeling frustrated. On Friday morning, he was waiting for her. They argued in the garden for a while. When she tried to get to her car, he grabbed her arm, but she shook him off and drove away. He looked upset as he sat down briefly before driving off. That Friday night, she returned to David and Vivian's house. She came back home on Saturday after a trip to the supermarket. Derek showed up around 1 o'clock, and they argued again. After a short kiss, she told him to leave, and he went away looking sad. This was where the story ended. Keith, or someone from his team, had done well. Although there were unclear parts, this was the truth. It seemed the relationship between Derek and Anne was struggling. Anne had taken a week away from her children and me, and while she spent time with Derek, it was clear there were problems. My thoughts were interrupted by the doorbell. Keith had arrived. I offered him some tea, and we began to talk. "I want to add more to the report," he said. "Go ahead," I replied, settling back in my seat. "There's not much more to say, it's mostly little details. It's easier to talk about than to write down. What you have," he pointed to the report in my hands, "are the facts. But there's more going on beneath that." "I'm not sure I understand. Let me clarify. When she left Fanshaw's house that first time on Saturday, she looked worried. In fact, she stopped and almost turned back. But then she chose to keep going. At the restaurant, he looked at her fondly, but she seemed distracted and avoided his eyes. He appeared to be trying to convince her of something, using his hands to express his point. As far as I could see, she didn't respond much. I did catch a moment that seemed close between them, but the room was quite dim. I wasn't there in the morning, but I had a female colleague go check early. She noted that Anne left pretty early, likely before Derek woke up, and that she had taken time to get ready. Now we enter a bit of guessing. My colleague thought she could read a woman's feelings from her face. She said Anne looked calm, as if she'd had a good night's sleep. It was like she was leaving her home after a restful night, suggesting either a lack of closeness or just a quiet evening. When Derek arrived at Anne's house, another male colleague observed that she looked surprised and even a bit angry to see him there. She crossed her arms and stood firmly in the doorway. He tried to come in, but she stood her ground. Although Nick couldn't hear what they were saying, their voices told the story. Her tone was critical, while his was full of hope. They talked for about half an hour before he finally walked away. After their lunch on Wednesday, Anne seemed more open to him. They shared a kiss that showed their bond. She looked a bit flustered when she got out of the car, adjusting her clothes and appearing a little anxious. You can see why it's hard to include this in a report. It's very personal. My colleagues and I see many couples each year, and we've learned to read their expressions and actions pretty well. I get it, I said, pouring him another cup of tea. Please go on. That evening, she arrived at his house around dinner time. They had a nice meal outside. I saw them head inside together. Later, the light in the bedroom turned on. As I wrote in my report, she briefly appeared in front of the window while getting ready for bed. My female colleague mentioned that the next morning, Anne left in a similar way as before, but Derek walked her to the door. She gave him a quick kiss on the cheek and left without looking back. You should ask David about what happened during dinner, but Anne looked upset when she went home. As soon as she got back, she went straight to bed. Derek arrived shortly after, looking quite troubled. He rang the bell, knocked on the door, and tossed stones at the window, but she didn't come down. It was clear she knew he was there. My colleague said he was waiting for her at 5 when she arrived. When she came out, they had a typical breakup argument. She had ended things, and he was really upset. He kept asking her to reconsider while showing his frustration. Even though she insisted it was over, he found it hard to accept, and she sensed that. It seemed Anne didn't want to go home that night and found comfort with David and Vivian. However, he came back on Saturday right at lunchtime. I saw them argue again, but she stood her ground. Eventually, he seemed defeated, and in a moment of weakness, she hugged him briefly before pushing him away, after which he left. Anne went inside, looking very upset while he drove away. From our discussions, we think Anne took the week to fully end her relationship with Derek. She led him to this conclusion, though some of her earlier actions showed she was unsure about really breaking up. But after her time with David and Vivian, she was ready to move on. Honestly, Alan, this has felt like a teenage drama, but it seems to finally be over between them. I sat in thought. Thanks, Keith. I still feel uneasy about watching her like that. I'm not quite sure why I did it. You wanted to know if your ex-wife was still with Derek. It's important to understand how you feel about this. She's an amazing woman, and you cared for her a lot before everything changed. Only you can know what made you act this way. Thanks for the help, I replied, a bit sarcastic. Maybe she broke things off with Derek because of someone else. Someone else? The man she went home with from David's. Oh, I hesitated to mention this since it wasn't part of our conversation. Go on. After dinner with David and Vivian, your assistant Jennifer came by with a man. I'm interested in that. I can't say who he was, but they arrived together, took a taxi, and walked up the drive holding hands. At the door, they shared a long kiss before she rang the bell. I was surprised. I'm sorry, Alan. I thought you should know. I took a deep breath. Thanks, Keith. I value your friendship. Anytime. Jenny arrived at 4, acting like everything was normal. But I felt something was off. She didn't check on me after I stayed home all Saturday, and her visit on Sunday felt too relaxed, as if it was planned. As soon as I heard her key in the lock, I grabbed my car keys, ready to leave. She walked in and I passed her in the hallway. She smiled and headed to the bedroom. Glad you could make it, I shouted. Make yourself comfortable. And I took off. I drove away, unsure of where to go. While driving, my phone rang. I knew who was calling. Too bad. I don't use a phone while driving. It wasn't illegal back then, but it is now, and I'm glad. I went to David's. The phone rang several times before it stopped. I pulled up outside David's, realizing I was being childish. I called the flat. Jenny, I started. Alan, she said, her voice trembling. I'm so sorry. I should have called you. Please come home. I need to talk. Okay, I replied. I got to the flat. She greeted me with a shy smile, but I kept my serious look. What's wrong, darling? She asked, noticing how I was acting. Where have you been? I asked coldly. She hesitated, her cheeks turning pink, not answering. It was clear she was unsettled. I think you should change your clothes, I said firmly. She looked at me, opened her mouth to say something, then walked to the bedroom. I sat down to wait. After a while, she came out fully dressed. Well, I said. She sat down on the sofa. It's about my uncle. What? Has he caused problems again? I thought he was out of our lives years ago. Then I had a sudden thought. I hoped she hadn't gone to David's with him. Let me explain, please, she begged. On Wednesday, Mom called me. Uncle John had a stroke and was in the hospital. It was serious. He couldn't speak and was weak on one side. Mom said he wanted to see me. She thought it would help us feel better. I was scared going into the ward, but I finally found him. Alan looked so small. I just stood there watching him. He looked at me, trying to say something. He pointed to the bedside where there was a piece of paper with one word written shakily. Sorry. I looked at him, and he was crying, looking ashamed. I cannot believe I did this, but I hugged him and told him I forgave him. Alan, if it wasn't for you, I couldn't have done that. I felt free. I told him everything, how his actions affected me and how hard it was for me to make friends until you came along. He listened and eventually smiled, looking relieved. Early this morning, I got a call from the hospital. He had another stroke and didn't have much time left. I went back to the hospital to be with Mom and Dad by his bed. He was not awake, but I held his hand to comfort him. Around 11 o'clock, he quietly passed away. I went home with Mom and Dad, and we talked about everything again. They weren't sure what to do since we were his only family. I went over the important details, like the funeral and the death certificate. Oh, I replied, unsure of what else to say. Alan, you seemed upset when I arrived. I should have called you. No, you were busy. I was a bit let down when you didn't reach out, but I shouldn't have jumped to conclusions. Why would you think that? She asked, clearly worried again. I found out something. I had Keith keep an eye on Anne this past week. He saw her go to David's last Tuesday. Her face changed, and she became quiet. Who is he? I asked, already knowing the answer. Peter, Anne's brother. Goodbye, I said firmly. Alan, goodbye, I repeated. She opened her mouth to say something, but changed her mind and left. I felt a mix of anger, sadness, and guilt. I had a lot on my mind, and I thought Jenny was my support. Peter. I had unintentionally directed her toward him. Actually, he would be good for her, and she would be good for him. The sudden news hurt, especially because she had not told me. I had felt a change in her before I left with the kids. Then I got a call from Susan, Jeff's wife. Alan, I have a worried woman here. What have you done? Ask her. Please talk to her, Alan. I don't like talking to people who are not honest with me. I care about that. When she needed me, I supported her, and she knew I don't have casual relationships. Alan, she's feeling guilty. Please. She should, I said, but then I softened. If she can drive here, I'll wait. I hung up. Another problem had come up in my life. I thought I had at least one strong relationship to rely on, and now that was ending. I wouldn't stay with Jenny if she started seeing someone else. Like with Trish, I knew there would be a time when Jenny might want someone who was a better match for her, especially in age. She deserved to settle down and have a family, and I was too old to start that chapter again. It was done. This thought weighed heavily on me. I would have to face my struggles on my own. Jenny came into the flat and walked into the room. I saw her eyes were red from crying, and I didn't feel cheerful either. She sat down across from me. I'm sorry, she said quietly. I looked at her. That's a bit vague. Let me speak before you explain. She nodded, looking very downcast. Since I came back to Sale, I've been tricked and lied to. I thought I could trust the people around me, especially you and Trish. I still felt insecure and uncertain because my memory was slowly coming back, and some things might never return. You knew that. You needed strong support after everything you went through. I gave you that support. If you counted how many times I said, but I'm with Jenny now, you'd lose track. But you're not the only one who needs strong support. I need it too. I depended on you being honest with me. Now that trust is shaken. Let me share what Keith told me. They got out of the taxi, and she tucked her arm in his as they walked up the driveway, her head on his shoulder. At the door, they shared a moment before she rang the bell. Jenny looked surprised. She hadn't expected such a clear picture of her actions. I continued, "What I want from you now. No, what I truly need from you is complete honesty. I think after what I've done for you, it's the least I can expect." "Yes?" "Yes," she said softly. "So," I said, "tell me everything." She nodded and prepared herself. "Please believe me, I never meant to hurt you. I didn't want you to find out this way. I planned to tell you when you came back. I wanted to talk it over." "It all started when he came over that Sunday with Anne. We had to keep out of the way while you two talked, so we spent a lot of time together. He was shy at first, but by the end he was more confident, and I saw he was a really nice man. I felt drawn to him. I gave him my phone number and he gave me his. He looked really happy. Well, he called me and we went out for a meal one night when I didn't come over to you." "When you were doing your washing or going out with friends?" I cut in. She blushed a little. "Yes, you're right. It was wrong to say those things. I don't want to make excuses. I guess I felt it was wrong to be with him and didn't want to hurt you. He was nice to talk to and you were caught up in your own issues. That's no excuse, I know. Anyway, we met a few times, and then he told me he was starting to have feelings for me. I think I was surprised because it made me realize I was starting to feel the same way. I looked forward to seeing you again, but I felt I should be loyal to you after everything you've done for me, so I didn't say anything. I'm sorry. I should have." "So everything we've had is just because you felt you had to?" I asked. "No, Alan, don't be ridiculous," she said, sounding calmer now. "I care about you a lot, and I always will. I've kept my distance from Peter, but over time we've become closer. We share moments and talk for hours. But Alan, this is important. Nothing crossed a line between us. Other than what I've shared and our small moments together, there hasn't been anything beyond that. I've made sure of it. He has tried to get closer, but I've stayed strong. You have always held my heart. He respects that. I noticed some distance from you. After our time together, it seemed like your mind was elsewhere. I felt you might have been thinking about what it might be like with him, even while we were together. Or maybe you were thinking about how to end things with us." She looked a bit uneasy. "Was it that obvious?" "Not clear. I didn't know why at the time, but I could tell you were emotionally distant. I noticed it." She sighed sadly. "You said you wanted to talk about your feelings for me when I got back," I asked. "Yes," she replied, meeting my eyes. "What made you decide to talk?" "It was the talker rather the disagreement at the Lombards. Anne has been seeing Derek." "I know." "Oh, yes. You had someone checking on her. Anyway, the women went to the kitchen while the men stayed in the living room. Vivian confronted Anne about her relationship with Derek, saying she was being disloyal to you. Anne responded that you were not around and didn't seem interested in her since we started seeing each other. Viv said that wouldn't last long, especially because of how well Peter and I were getting along. She had invited him that night. I felt uneasy. Then Viv started on me. She said Peter might be a better choice for the future given our age difference and asked if I wanted children. She insisted I was being unfair to you and Anne for continuing with you. I was upset, no, I was really upset. Vivian means well, but she gets too involved. I think she realized she had overstepped, but she told Anne there was no chance of getting back together with you if she kept dating Derek. She said if Anne wanted to have a chance with you, she had to end things with him. It was a clear choice. Anne had to risk whether you would take her back. As long as Anne supported Derek, she was not respecting you. Derek caused this issue himself. If Anne couldn't see how wrong he was, she must care for him more than for you. That hurt. She cried and left. Peter followed her and they drove away together. That's when I understood how unfaithful I had been to you. I needed to tell you. Then Uncle John became sick and, well, you know the rest. So, I said after thinking for a moment, it seems like you were being played. I was curious why Anne brought Peter that night. She could have driven alone. She seemed calm, hardly noticing him while they were here. I wonder what made her bring Peter. I think it might have been Viv. What happened when you were at the office party? Jenny looked surprised. It seemed like her thoughts were racing. Oh no, I think I've been set up. She started to mimic Viv and Anne in a light-hearted way. Isn't Peter with you? Peter's really a nice guy, right, Anne? Jenny recalled. He's great, but I might be a little biased. He's kind, and if someone could help him come out of his shell, he'd make a wonderful partner. He's really not selfish. They both laughed. I mean, how funny to say that about your own brother. Well, as his sister, she knows him well. She turned a bit red. Have you talked to him about this? I asked. No, she replied, surprised. Then she saw my smile. Oh, you, she said, her worry fading for a moment. I realized what I had to do, even if I didn't like it. Jenny deserved Peter. Our time together had been special, but it always felt a little uneven. I recognized I needed to let her go. Jenny was growing more confident and finding her own way. It was time for both of us to move forward. Even if you were set up, I think this worked out for you. Peter will be good for you, and you for him. So, Jenny, it's time to move on as friends. What do you mean? She asked, concern in her voice. I met her gaze. She's smart, and she understood what I meant. No way, she exclaimed. I'm not going to let Anne, Viv, or anyone else influence me. I want to stay with you. No, you don't, I replied calmly. It doesn't matter that you were put in this situation. You've met someone you could truly care about. Don't pass that up. I saw how he looked at you the first time you met after Anne's wedding, and I noticed how you looked at him too. But what about us? Our relationship has been nice, but we both know it wasn't meant to last long term. A few months isn't much. It's always tough to say goodbye, but it's really time for you to start fresh. But you? She repeated, her voice more urgent. I have my own path to follow. I don't know where it will lead, but I need to live it fully. Alan, please. Not yet. Jenny, you've been holding something back from me. Please, Alan. I promise I won't do that again. So what do you want, Jenny? I want you for just a little while longer. I need your support, just for a bit, please. I thought about her request. She hadn't fully opened up to Peter yet, and she had kept me in the dark to protect my feelings. I knew what I should do. Maybe I could give it a little more time. I have some things to consider, I said. She leaned in, curious. Peter is interested in you. Even if he feels it wasn't fair, you're too special for him to ignore. My first condition is that you stay open to a real relationship with him. She frowned. Come on, Jenny. You really like him. She paused, then nodded. Second condition. Let things happen naturally and don't hold back when you feel ready to move forward. When you start a new chapter with him, you'll need to focus on that commitment. I can't share that with you, and he shouldn't either. You must promise me this. She thought for a moment, then repeated the conditions to be sure she understood before agreeing. Alan, we care for each other a lot, don't we? Why go through this? You have the chance for a healthy relationship, and it's important to take that chance. Our bond has been good, but the age difference matters, and you have leaned on me too much. It's time for you to stand on your own. So, can I stay tonight? We can be close? Of course. Until you start your new relationship, we can continue how we have. I wasn't sure how long that would last. The talk felt strange. We settled into bed, but there was a feeling of unease between us. She showed her affection, but I gently pushed her away. She looked hurt. Jenny, relax. Do you love me? She nodded, tears in her eyes. I love you. Love is about supporting each other for the long haul. We will be together until you are ready to be with Peter. Just lie here with me. Hold me. I could feel her tension fade as she cuddled close. We shared soft kisses and slowly began to comfort each other. I noticed her relax. Eventually, she grew calm and drifted off to sleep. The next morning, we overslept. Jenny apologized at breakfast for falling asleep without really connecting, but I told her to let it go. I will tonight, she said with a laugh before leaving to take care of her tasks. I went to work and spent much of the morning feeling lost in thought. After lunch, I called Viv and clearly shared my annoyance about her meddling in my life. She launched into her usual, I'm just trying to help speech, and suggested that Anne was a better match for me now that Jenny was stepping back. I hung up. Then, I called David and explained what had happened and her reaction. Oh no, he said. I try to stop her, but she thinks she knows what people need. Sometimes they just want space. So, are we still on for Friday with the four of us? Yes, it's nothing against you, my friend. Any luck with Stephanie Fanshaw's address? Not yet, but I'll have it by Friday. Did Jenny tell you about the events from last week? I heard about them. Do you understand Anne's behavior? I don't. No, he said. She isn't approaching this the right way if she wants you to think about her. He paused. Is this ban on Viv permanent? Of course not. I laughed. But she needs to understand that I live my own life and I really don't like her interfering in my relationships. So, Jenny is dating Peter now? Yep. How do you feel about that? I haven't had much time to think about it. We've only been together for about 2 months, and it was always a possibility. It's been nice, but it seems like it's coming to an end. I'm sorry to hear that, Alan. Don't be. I've had 2 amazing girls who've helped me a lot, especially with my self-confidence. Now I need to focus on myself. I might have sounded cheerful, but I didn't truly feel that way. There would be time to think about the past year, and working with Jenny while she started dating Peter would be tough. When I got home, Jenny was already there, preparing dinner, a tasty Italian meal. Afterward, we sat on the sofa together. Okay, I guess, she said when I asked about her day. I almost put blackmailer and bad person as the job on the death certificate. She laughed. You really are free from him now, right? Thanks to you, my love, she said, resting her head on my arm. And now you're free to start a new relationship on your own terms, I said softly. She didn't respond. You are, you know, I encouraged her. I'm scared, she admitted. I waited for her to continue. With you, I feel safe, but with Peter. Jenny, my love, I whispered. You know what people say about him, and you've talked to him. He seems interested, so there's more to him than you might think. You've heard the saying, a ship is safe in the harbor, but that's not what it's for. But will it work? Honestly, no one knows for sure at the start. You have to put in the effort. You know that. What about Anne? What about her? I asked casually. Well, you and she. Not a chance, at least not for now. But Viv said, yes, Viv thinks that if you leave me, I'll go back to Anne. But you pointed out that Viv likes to interfere, and she's mistaken. She's been trying to create trouble between us for weeks. There was silence for a moment. As I said before, I said calmly, just because she's tried to influence you doesn't mean Peter isn't the right person for you. Okay, she said, suddenly sounding more relaxed. She was always like that. Once she made up her mind, her doubts seemed to disappear. We shared a quiet moment together, enjoying each other's presence, the connection between us growing stronger. We sat close, embracing each other, and the comfort and warmth of the moment felt very special. Soon we both felt relaxed, satisfied with the bond we had. As we sat together, I gently stroked her hair and back, appreciating the calm between us. Our connection was comforting, and we both felt at ease, enjoying each other's company. After some time, we settled into the sofa, content to be together, letting the evening pass without any hurry. Their connection grew stronger as they shared their feelings and became more engaged in each other's company. She shared what she wanted, and he listened carefully, responding to her needs. As they continued, they found themselves moving together in harmony, encouraging one another. She smiled and motivated him to keep going, and he made sure to go at a comfortable pace as they enjoyed the moment together. Eventually, they both relaxed, feeling fulfilled and a bit tired after their time spent together. She moved to the edge of the couch, letting me lie back and wrap my arms around her. She picked up the remote and turned on some soft music. There was a peaceful silence between us, and in that moment, everything felt right. Soon, reality returned as we prepared for the next day. We enjoyed some wine together before going to bed, walking alongside each other. Did we have another close moment? No, I wasn't as youthful as I used to be. Jenny assured me she felt happy, and we settled into bed, holding each other for a while before falling asleep. At breakfast, Jenny seemed a little anxious. I suspected what it was about. Are you meeting Peter tonight? I asked gently. She looked surprised. Yes, is that okay with you? Given what we've talked about? Of course, go for it. She looked relieved. I was worried after last night. You'll need to guide him. What happened last night was thanks to Trish's advice. Thank goodness for Trish, she said with a laugh. With the tension gone, I felt calm and sure about my choice. However, tension returned with Anne. Are you going to Anne's tonight? Jenny asked casually at work. Oh, no, I said. I meant to call her and set that up for later this week. Well, you'd better do it, she teased. I playfully stuck my tongue out at her and she laughed, but I knew I needed to make that call. I called Anne at work and arranged to have dinner with her later this week. After hanging up, I couldn't shake off uneasy thoughts about Keith's report and his comments. I felt uncertain about the situation with Anne and needed to talk to Stephanie for some clarity. On Tuesday, I arrived in time for dinner, which we call tea in the north of England, unlike the south, where it's known as dinner or supper. As I parked the car and walked to the front door, I noticed Mrs. Gregory looking over the fence. We greeted each other. "I'm so glad your family is back," she said, her voice a bit shaky, "and even happier that you're here, though it's awful what you've been through." I didn't feel it was necessary to explain our family dynamics, so I listened as she continued talking while I felt my stomach rumble with hunger. "Bill and I always said you could set your clock by your family's arrivals and departures, the children off to school, and then Anne's brother or cousin visiting during the day. It's nice to see everyone together again, even though we haven't seen him since you got back. Of course, Anne is working now." I was curious about her words. "Her brother, you say?" I asked. "Or cousin? He had a big car." Now I was puzzled. "Peter had a small car. He always said he didn't need a bigger one. I didn't think I had any male cousins." "Did he visit often?" I pressed on. "You know I don't have a great memory." "Oh, I usually see him once or twice a week. My, it's been nearly 4 years, hasn't it? He was very kind. It must have been before Anne started working when she was home with the children. But they were all at school then." I quickly gathered my thoughts. "Do you think Bill would remember what type of car her cousin drove? I'm not sure which one it could be." I hoped she wouldn't suggest asking Anne. "Hold on just a moment," she said and went inside the house, returning shortly. "He says it was a Bentley, a fancy model, whatever that means." "Thanks, Mrs. Gregory," I replied. "I think I've got a clearer picture now. Bill mentioned he saw him yesterday, but in a different car, a black BMW. He didn't stay long." "Oh, good," I said. "It's nice to know he watches out for her." My feelings were quite the opposite, though. I needed to think about that. The cars reminded me of Derek, adding another piece to the puzzle of Anne's actions before my accident. Over the 3 days I visited for tea, the children made deeper talks difficult, except on Tuesday, when she got me to agree to our first meeting at the flat the next Sunday. Most of our exchanges were short. On Tuesday, "How's Jenny?" she asked. "Fine. She's out with Peter tonight." "Oh," a satisfied smile. "On Wednesday, did things get sorted with Peter?" she asked after he left. "Yes." "Oh," a curious look. "On Thursday, seeing Jenny tonight?" she asked. "Yes," I replied evenly, but I think my face showed more. "Oh." A look I took as caring. The reason for the Wednesday question was that Peter came by after tea and wanted to talk. He seemed upset. I led him to the computer room. "So what's this about?" I started. "Don't you think it's time you let Jenny go?" he asked firmly. "I didn't know she was being held back," I said. "Don't be dismissive, Alan, you know what I mean," he replied, looking stern. "Peter, she is a free woman. She does what she wants. If she wants to leave me, that's her choice. You know she feels you depend on her. She thinks you need her." That caught me off guard. I thought it was the other way around. "Peter," I said, feeling frustrated, "are you saying you want Jenny for yourself?" He seemed uncomfortable. "Well, yes." "Then what's stopping you?" "I'm not." "It's not that simple, and you know it." "What do I know?" "Come on, Alan, she feels pity for you. It keeps her around." That was a new thought for me. Jenny might like me, but I didn't think she felt sorry for me. "That's silly, Peter. Has she said anything like that?" "No, but nothing. If you want her, go for it. Both Jenny and I know our time together is temporary. Has she told you about us?" "I know about her Uncle John in Canada." "Did she say I took advantage of her?" "Well, no. She said she pretty much came on to you." "Doesn't sound like pity to me, or that I'm forcing her to stay." There was a pause. "Peter," I started again, "what's going on with Jenny?" "I think you know," he said sadly. "I'm not good with women. That's not what I've heard." "What?" "I remember seeing you two last week walking together. She was really close to you, and you seemed to have a nice moment." "What? When? How?" I interrupted him. "At David and Vivian's place while I was gone? Anything to say about that?" "Sorry, Alan." He looked guilty and, I thought, a little scared. "I shouldn't have—" "Honestly, Peter, do I look mad or upset? What's going on with you? It seems like Jenny really likes you. You talk a lot, and you seem to connect well." Another pause. I waited this time. "I've always had bad luck with girls," he said sadly. "Every time I wanted to move things along, I'd hear, 'I just want to be friends.'" "So you're worried that Jenny will say the same?" "She's so beautiful," he said, looking off into the distance. "She would never choose someone like me." "Peter," I said softly, "pay attention to how she interacts with you. How does she look at you? How does she respond?" I tried to not just hold her hand, but she said she wouldn't be unfaithful to you while she was with you, so I stepped back. "Did she give you the just friends speech?" He looked surprised. "No." "So she leans on you, talks for hours, shares her life story." I pressed on, but he seemed a bit lost. "She doesn't say just friends and uses the words while I'm with Alan. Think about that, Peter." His eyes widened. "You mean?" "I mean, a shy heart rarely wins the fair lady, Peter. What do you have to lose? Are you saying you and Jenny are over?" "I'm not saying anything, Peter. Go find out yourself," I said with a smile. A smile grew on his face. He was pretty slow on the uptake. "Thanks, Alan," he sighed. "You've always been a good friend. I just wish you and Anne—" "That's enough, Peter," I interrupted. "Don't push it." I was still smiling as I cut him off. He knew better than to keep going. He left after shaking my hand firmly. "Well, Jenny," I thought, "it seems like we're reaching the end." And it was true. She seemed deep in thought all day Thursday, and I knew why, but the office wasn't the place to talk. After I returned from Anne's, Jenny came to the flat. She sat me down. "Alan?" She hesitated. "It's time, isn't it?" I asked. "You saw Peter last night, and now you're with him." She looked a bit relieved. "Yes," she replied. "He seemed like a new person last night. He asked me to be his girlfriend and leave you." "Good," I said. "It's about time. He hasn't had much luck with women, and he probably thinks someone as great as you wouldn't notice him." She seemed confused. "When did he say that?" "Last night, before he spoke to you. I told him he should try. Just make sure to reassure him. He might feel unsure about you." She jumped up, and when I stood, she hugged me. "You are amazing. You really helped him, didn't you?" "Well," I started but didn't finish as she stepped back to look in my eyes. "One more time?" she asked. "Peter and I haven't—" "I think you should try that new experience with Peter." "But wasn't the last time enough?" She paused, shrugged, and then smiled. "Yes, you're right. I'll miss you. I'll miss being around you. Peter will be good for you. You'll need to guide him some. He hasn't had much experience." "Thank you, Alan." Her eyes got a bit misty. "I won't forget what you've done for me. If things go well with Peter, he'll owe you a lot too." She smiled through her tears. We packed her things into her car, and after a warm hug, she left my life, at least in that way. I picked up a book, but found myself often thinking about Jenny and our connection. It had been special, leaving me with a sense of fulfillment. Still, the place felt empty. I had been on my own before. Jenny didn't live there and wasn't around every night. But this felt different, like truly being alone without the hope of someone nearby. I thought this must be similar to how people feel when they lose someone dear. This was the first time since waking from my coma that I felt completely alone in the world. I didn't feel lonely knowing I had friends. Maybe this solitude would help me grow. I had family that cared about me. Life was good, and I hoped Jenny and Peter would be happy together. They both deserved it. With those thoughts, I settled in with a drink and continued my book. On Friday morning, I walked into an empty office. Where was Jenny? Had she left? I called Judy for an update. "She's at a funeral today and won't be in, didn't she tell you?" Then it clicked. She had mentioned it. In a way, this was a relief. It meant I wouldn't have to think about any changes in our work situation just yet. Any worries about our possible challenges were soon forgotten by an unexpected arrival. "Mr. Johnson," said our young receptionist, "there's a Mr. Fanshawe is here to see you." Unexpected didn't quite describe how I felt. "I am in a meeting right now, but it will end soon. Can you ask him to wait?" He could. I had a quick chat with Jeff, who would help at Jenny's desk. We skipped over why Derek was visiting someone he had hurt before. "Bring him in, Sally," I told her while starting my recorder. A moment later, there was a knock, and Derek, a man I hadn't seen since the Chamber of Commerce dinner, stepped into the room. "Mr. Johnson," he said in a serious tone, offering his hand. I stayed seated and didn't take it. He looked at Jeff, then focused back on me, letting his hand drop. "Take a seat, Derek," I said firmly. "What do you want?" He looked uneasy, which I took as a sign of guilt, but his first words changed my mind. "I'll be straightforward," he began. "I'm glad you are better, but you need to know that Anne has moved on. You are with someone else. Yet it seems like you're stopping Anne from coming to me with these false accusations. Please tell her that I didn't hurt you. Let her go back to me. She was happy until your return, but now she thinks you want her back." "Wait, Derek," I interrupted. "I'm not stopping her, and I haven't accused you of anything." "I know you have," he retorted. "You, Colin Sinnott, and David Lambourne have all said I caused your accident. Believe what you want, Derek, but that isn't the truth." "But you think I'm guilty?" "Oh yes, Derek, I have my doubts, but that's not the same as claiming anything to anyone else. Anne wanted proof when no one else would give it to her. I just provided that proof." "There's no proof, it's just a guess." "I'm not here to fight, Derek. That's for the courts to handle. So what do you want?" "Anne feels sorry for not searching harder for you. This isn't love, she loves me. She keeps coming back because of her guilt. She was with me twice last week while you were away with the kids. Surprised? She is trying to make up for what she thinks she failed to do. Convince her to come back to me. She will with time. She needs my help." "I don't know how Anne feels," I said back. "I haven't asked her. All she has mentioned is wanting to go back to how we were before I left. If she feels sorry, it's for you." At this, his face turned red, and he stood up quickly. "That's another of your lies, Janssen. She wanted me, preferred me before you left. We had been together for months. She always said I could give her more than you ever could. So you're not in the running there. I love her, and she will be truly happy with me." He turned and walked out the door. "You were involved with her before you tried to bring me down?" I said quietly. He stopped and turned. "Yes, you poor guy. You didn't see it coming. She got what she wanted from me while getting her life from you. This happens a lot." "Thanks, Derek. That only makes me think what I already had in mind. So you're saying she's been lying to me?" "Her problem is that she wants to make everyone happy. That's impossible, and I bet I wasn't the first." "So why did it take her so long to move in with you?" "She didn't want to risk her situation in case you came back. She knew where her support was." "So that's why you wrote that letter?" "Yes. She needed a nudge. It worked. She was happy to be with me. We had a nice time until you showed up." "Well, Derek," I said, wrapping up our talk, "I'll let you get going. There's no point in her coming back to you. You won't be around much longer, will you?" "Get out of here!" He snapped and left. I turned off the recorder and saved the audio on my laptop. Jeff looked at me and I shrugged. He went back to his office. In the evening, I met with the group and we talked for hours. Keith didn't mention watching Anne. I didn't mention my chat with Derek, and thankfully we focused on politics, sports, and finances. David gave me Stephanie's address and phone number as we left, and Colin drove me home. There was no news about the court case, which didn't surprise me. When I got home, I checked the weather and saw it would be a gray day, but warm and dry. I called Anne to check on the kids. Jan was going to a party in the afternoon, and Stefan was invited to spend the day with a friend. Greta was out with a friend. Anne had promised to go shopping with Vivian later in the day. I decided to head over around lunchtime. Once I arrived, I started to work on the garden, which needed care. It was a relaxing afternoon, and I left before Anne got back. Later that evening, I enjoyed an early drink at a local pub, the Swan with 2 Nicks. I had a deep talk with the landlord about the brewing industry. I ended up staying longer than planned because I wanted to listen to the jazz band that was playing that night. The whiskey at home made me fall into a deep sleep. On Sunday morning, I was woken up late by the phone. It was Susan. Had I forgotten I was having lunch with them? I apologized and told her I had overslept, assuring her I would be there soon. She laughed and reminded me I had 2 hours to get there, making sure I remembered our plans. I thanked her for being so kind, and she warned me not to get lost. She welcomed me at the door of their lovely home in Bowden, hugged me and asked, "Are you okay?" "You heard?" "Yes. Are you all right?" "Susan, I've known this was coming for some time. She'll be happier with Peter. He's just what she needs, and she's what he needs too." "But now you've lost 2. She paused, trying to find the right words. "Friends?" I joked, making her smile. "No more work talk when I'm here, I've told Jeff," she said lightly. I nodded, and then she invited me inside. It was a lovely day, sunny and warm. Jeff and I sat on the patio with our drinks, enjoying the garden. Dinner felt like a fun family gathering. Their teenage son and daughter greeted me with cheerful chatter before heading to their rooms after the meal. The conversation was lively and filled with laughter. After dinner, we moved to the living room, May in an armchair, and the two of them on the sofa. Susan played some soft music, and we relaxed in the calm atmosphere until she broke the quiet. "So, Alan, how are things going?" she asked, clearly curious. I tensed, sensing where this talk was going. "Fine. Do you see much of Anne and the kids?" Now I knew what she was getting at. "Susan," I said, perhaps a bit harshly, "please don't go there." She looked surprised. "What do you mean? Don't act like you don't know." Jeff shifted awkwardly, trying to signal that this was a sensitive topic. I continued, "You said no work talk. Well, my past with Anne is work talk. Please give me a break." "Sorry," she said, looking genuinely sorry. "It's just that—" "Okay," I interrupted. "Let me make this clear. I'm happy for Jenny. I'm at peace with her decision. Now that I'm single, I need some time alone. I'm frustrated that Anne and Viv tried to move Jenny away from me so I'd go back to Anne. That really bothers me, and I hope you weren't involved. After that, there's no way I'd want to get back together with Anne. I'm also starting to see that my past with her wasn't as perfect as I once thought. Are you satisfied now?" She recoiled, and Jeff looked uneasy. "How will this affect your work with Jenny?" he asked carefully. I sensed he was trying to change the subject away from Anne. "I think we'll just have to wait and see." I care for Jenny, and I don't see a problem on my end, but I'm not sure how she'll handle things. "Okay, that makes sense," he said. His timing was good, and I realized he was trying to shift the focus from Susan. I admired him for this, took his lead, and changed the subject. About 4, I decided it was time to leave. At the door, Jeff said his goodbye and went inside, leaving me with Susan. "Alan," she said, "I'm sorry about before. I shouldn't have brought that up. I knew about their plans for Jenny but didn't say anything to Jeff because I knew he'd tell you." "I'm really sorry. Please forgive me." I opened my arms and she stepped in for a quick hug, looking up at me with a smile. "Forgiven and forgotten," I said, smiling back. Feeling her warmth was nice, but I carefully pulled away to keep my calm. A knowing smile appeared on her face. "It's good to know I still make an impression," she whispered. "Come on, Susan, you know you're charming," I replied, turning to walk to the car. "You're welcome to visit any time. Come over for tea sometime," she said as I reached the car. She stood gracefully by the door. I promised I would, making sure she saw my grateful look. She playfully waved and smiled as she headed inside. I left feeling lighter, but as I drove closer to home and my meeting with Anne, those good feelings faded, replaced by confusion. I was not looking forward to it. 41. I guessed I had about 2 hours before Anne arrived. I changed into a t-shirt and jeans and gave the apartment a good clean. I had been putting it off and it really needed tidying up. But I realized I was cleaning because I felt anxious. For the same reason, I couldn't bring myself to eat anything, though I put out a bowl of cashew nuts that Susan told me Anne liked. I had just finished when the doorbell rang. I suddenly thought, I look a mess. Why do I feel this way? I shrugged and went to the door. When I opened it, I understood why I had been so nervous. Was it something I noticed while visiting, or a memory from before? She looked amazing. There was no other way to say it. My first thought was if this was a trick, or a reason to be cautious. I recognized this feeling. It was similar to how I felt before meeting with a customer. She wore a light green suit with a well-fitted jacket and a skirt that came just above her knees. Underneath was a lighter blouse with big pink flowers. It had just the right amount of style. She didn't wear any tights or stockings and had on a pair of open-toe shoes with 2-inch heels. Her hair was cut in a soft style, and her makeup was simple but flawless. This showed her confidence and beauty. I assessed all this in a moment as I held the door open for her. She stepped in, placed a hand on my shoulder, and gave me a friendly kiss on the cheek with a smile. "Hi, Anne," I said, wondering if she felt as confident as she looked. She walked into the living room and asked, "Where should I sit?" I pointed to the sofa and took a seat in the armchair. We shared a brief silence, just looking at each other. "Well," I asked, breaking the quiet. It was a quiet meeting, and since she had asked for it, it was her turn to talk first. After a moment, she collected her thoughts and spoke gently, keeping eye contact. Alan, can you promise that even if our talks get tough, we will keep meeting until we find some solution? I thought about what she said. As co-parents, it was important for us to keep talking for the sake of the kids. I shared that feeling, and she smiled faintly, looking even more beautiful. Well, here it goes. I loved you for many years before you left, and now that you're back, I still love you the same. It's hard living like this, and I want you back. I want us to share our lives again. I don't care about how you look. Others have said I might feel sorry for you. That's not true. I love you for who you are. Even if you were facing tough times, I would still want to be there for you. You have always been the one for me. Now that you're back, there won't be anyone else, no matter what you choose. With that, she leaned back, looking calm and happy, waiting for my answer. A wave of annoyance stirred inside me. She expressed her love, but it felt oddly conveyed. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. You just said you love me, I stated. She opened her mouth to say something, but I gently stopped her. I heard you, Anne. Now it's my turn to speak. You have all night to respond. She settled back and motioned for me to continue. First, your actions with Viv and how you got Jenny away from me were tricky. I heard it was her idea to bring Peter the last time you visited, but you went along with it. Then there was how you both handled Jenny at the office party. I believe Viv made another remark about the age difference and how much better Peter was for Jenny, while your comments seemed to focus on other things. At this, Anne looked a bit guilty and tried to speak again. I raised my hand and she fell silent once more. You created a gap between Jenny and me. That was selfish and hurtful to both of us, and Jenny was really upset when she found out. She thought about ending things with Peter to be with me. Couldn't you see that? Your actions might have really damaged their relationship. This time, she interrupted. So why are they still together? She asked, annoyed. You see, I replied sharply, once again, you are making me look like the liar, and this is becoming a pattern. I convinced her not to let Viv's actions spoil a good relationship. I encouraged her to focus on Peter. Yes, he is a better match for her. Yes, they work well together. That's why I supported her choice. That doesn't make what you did okay. I think what you did was wrong. If you think that pushing Jenny away will make me want to come back to you, let me tell you it does the opposite. Now she seemed sorry. Alan, I'm really sorry. Viv has been pushing me since she found out about you and Jenny. I'm not trying to make excuses. I regret listening to her. I decided not to respond and kept talking. Next, there's your connection with Derek. That's a big issue for me. There are too many questions, and I don't want to talk about them right now. But I don't want to be with someone who has been involved with a man who has caused me trouble. But I've completely cut ties with him. You know that, right? She said urgently. I remember after your visit with him, you said you were done for good, but you mentioned wanting to support him. Isn't that true? Yes, that's true. Then why didn't you wait for me to leave before getting back in touch with him? There was a heavy silence that I let sit for a moment before I continued. Are you going to tell me it's not what you think? Because it is exactly what I think, especially that second night when you were with him. How did you... Anne, I didn't trust you, so I asked someone to keep an eye on you. Turns out my gut feeling was right. You had me followed? She asked, her frustration growing. Yes, and it helped me see the truth behind your claims of love for me. By the way, Derek came to see me last Friday. He had a lot to say. What did he say? Now she looked flustered. He mentioned several things, and you said he was honest. He wrote the letter that caused problems between you two and shared more details. I assume you'll tell me more as we go on. She seemed speechless for a moment, then shook her head. Why did he come to you? She asked, looking puzzled. He wanted me to step aside so he could be with you. I felt that my presence was causing confusion because of your feelings for me. An awkward silence followed, and I eventually spoke again. I think it's best to pause our talk for now. You should go home and think about what I said. I will speak to others to confirm what Derek shared, and if it's true, we will need to reconsider our situation, even if it was never serious. Please, just tell me what he said, she pleaded. No, you need to go home and think things over. I know you ended things with him after those nights. If we talk again, you will need to completely stop contacting him. But ultimately, it's up to you to decide. Just remember to think about the consequences." She looked at me sincerely. "You must dislike me for this." "No, I don't. I'm just confused by what you did and disappointed, especially since everyone talks about your honesty. So for now, you should go. I will get in touch later." She stood up, gathered her things, and left, leaving me sitting there. Not exactly a great conversation, I thought. I got ready for the next day and settled in for the night. While I was reading, the phone rang. It was Anne. "Alan, I'm sorry about what happened earlier. I understand now why you can't come back. Would you like to join me for tea this week?" "Which day?" I asked gently, sensing she was upset. There was no need to be harsh now that I had made my point. "How about Tuesday?" "Sure. See you then." She quickly hung up, as if trying to end the conversation. Moments later, David called. "Alan, could you do me a favor?" "Sure, what is it?" "Please come for dinner tomorrow. I know things are tense with Viv, but we need to talk." "Why do you want that?" "Viv has something important to share. Please?" I felt hesitant, but agreed. "Okay," I said, my voice showing my reluctance. "What time?" 6, and Alan?" "Yes?" "Viv's realized her mistakes. There won't be any surprises." I chuckled softly, thinking how Anne's call and David's request felt connected. No more surprises? That would be like waiting for pigs to fly. The next morning, I got to the office early and called Stephanie Fanshawe, who answered from home. "I'm not sure this is a good idea, Mr. Johnson. Let's move on from the past." "Mrs. Fanshawe, there are questions only you can answer." I barely remembered the events surrounding my disappearance, and I received different stories from people, including my ex-wife. Some so-called friends were not being honest, and I was feeling lost. "Well," she thought for a moment, "I can check the divorce documents. That might help. Can you come by Wednesday night at 8? It's the only evening I'm free." I agreed. When Jenny arrived, she looked happy, which made me feel a bit better. She came to my desk and said a quick thank you. "Did the funeral go well?" I asked. "Yes, Peter came with me and met my parents. They liked him." "I'm glad to hear that," I replied. The day went by smoothly. Jeff looked nervous until he saw us together, then he relaxed. We were set to meet with an alarm company in London on Thursday. They needed an upgrade to their sensors, which was a simple task. However, they had a reputation for being tough negotiators. Thankfully, we were in a good position because of our other commitments and our experience with that kind of sensor. That evening, I arrived at David's house by taxi, hoping for a warm welcome and maybe a nice drink. David greeted me but mentioned that Viv was not there. Seeing my curiosity, he led me to the living room and handed me a drink. "A nice start. You'll enjoy this," he said. "It's a Highland malt, sweet and smooth. Viv will join us shortly." I smiled in response. Before long, she came in. "Hi, Alan," she said, and we exchanged a friendly greeting. "Am I forgiven?" she asked. "That depends on whether you've thought about what you did," I replied, trying to sound serious, but her gentle nature made it hard to stay stern. "Alan," she began, taking a moment, "I was wrong about the situation with you, Anne, and Jenny. I shouldn't have gotten involved. It could have turned out worse. The fact that Jenny and Peter are together is mostly because of you, and I'm sorry for that. I misunderstood everything, and I truly regret it." "Viv," I said with a smile, "you're forgiven, but please don't get involved with Anne. You don't fully understand what I'm dealing with. Can we agree on that?" "I promise," she replied. I hugged her and we shared a quick kiss. She looked relieved as she smiled at me. "I would hate to lose you as a friend." The meal went well, and after we returned to the living room, I wanted to clarify something I had heard and needed confirmation on. "I've received some information about Anne," I said. "When did Anne first meet Derek?" Silence filled the room and David looked uneasy. "David," I encouraged gently. "Just a moment, Alan. I'm trying to remember." He called out to Viv, who was making coffee in the kitchen. "December 1999, she said, entering the room. "It was a Christmas party we hosted. I remember because everyone was talking about the millennium bug. You were dismissive about it, and you were right. You were arguing with Bill, and Anne got bored, so I introduced her to Derek. They hit it off." "David, Viv," I said quietly, "Derek's wife divorced him because of an affair with a married woman. You knew that?" "Well, yes," David admitted, sensing what I was implying. "But we believe it wasn't Anne. Anyone could see she was loyal to you. You were her everything." Alan, Viv interjected, please don't make assumptions. She was always faithful to you. We believe that. Were either of you near the house during the day at all? I asked. Well, no. Then like me, you can't be sure, I said firmly. By the way, the neighbor said Derek visited the house during the day about twice a week. Consider that what you will. Viv went back to the kitchen looking worried. I haven't decided yet, I said thoughtfully. I have someone else to see, as you know. Stephanie Fanshawe, David said. That's right. Maybe she has more information than was shared during the divorce. From what I understand, Derek faced issues for hiding the woman's name. Stephanie knows who it was, and that could either clear or raise doubts about Anne. Viv, overhearing with concern as she brought in the coffee, looked anxious. Viv, I said firmly, please don't tell Anne about this. You promised me when I arrived. I expect you to keep that promise. She nodded, looking relieved. It's okay, Alan. From now on, your relationship with Anne is your own affair. The evening ended well, and our friendship remained strong. Most parents understand that practical matters often fill conversations. My visit the next day was no exception. I could tell Anne wanted to chat, but I wasn't ready yet. After putting the kids to bed, I got ready to leave, letting her know that I wouldn't be home the next evening and that I had plans in London starting Thursday. She looked a bit wistful. What are you thinking about? I asked. Oh, nothing, she said. I was just recalling how I used to pack for you when you traveled, and now you have to do it yourself. I hadn't thought about that before, but I remembered her moving around, asking me which colors I wanted to wear. I smiled. I forgot about that, but now it's coming back. I could never decide which suits to bring or how many. You always had a way of pushing me to choose. I did not, she laughed. I just helped you make a choice. Okay, I agreed. But then her look changed. I hoped we could talk more tonight, she said softly. Not a good idea. Let's find another time to meet. We decided to reconnect on the Tuesday after I got back from London. By then, I expected to have a better understanding of my situation. I was starting to feel that things were ending between Anne and me. It seemed clear that we might separate completely, sharing custody of the kids. This thought weighed heavily on me. Life felt challenging. It felt like a common story where a husband is too focused on work, while his wife looks for support elsewhere, all while saying she still loves him. Tomorrow, I would meet with Stephanie Fanshawe. Revenge was on the horizon, and this time it was personal. Anne and Derek thought they'd won, but they had no idea what was coming. You won't believe how this ends. Subscribe, and don't miss Part 5, where justice burns brighter than ever.